CBS Sports welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
For a second consecutive week, the roof is closed here in Indy. Let's take it down to the field live. We say good afternoon to John Schriffen.
Hey, Kevin, the Colts are one of the least penalized team in the entire NFL. The big reason for that, well, it all stemmed from head coach Frank Reich's philosophy. He believes you have to assume that your guys are smart. Now, with that in mind, when he goes over game tape, he doesn't just show them their mistakes. He shows them the results of penalties and how it affects the drives. He wants his guys to understand the why behind everything. Once they get that, he believes they'll be empowered and take ownership of the game plan. Kevin?
Hey, John, thanks.
Yeah, your best players are typically your smartest players, and smart players, Kevin, rarely do dumb things.
We've had the flip of the coin. The Colts have won the toss. They have deferred. The Raiders will receive, and to kick it off, Rigoberto Sanchez for Indy. And deep back in his Raiders debut after a trade with Green Bay is Trevor Davis. A lot of inactives, a lot of newsy things to get you caught up on. We'll do that here over the next couple minutes. It's the Colts and the Raiders, and away we go from Indy. Out of the end zone, touchback to the 25. Raiders will take it 1st and 10. A look at quarterback Derek Carr. Rich completing 73% of his passes. Good for number 2 through 3 weeks in this young season.
And I think the fact that he's year 2 in the offense, John Gruden and Derek Carr, I think, have a much better feel for one another. And I think Derek Carr's starting to understand the why. Why is Gruden calling plays in certain situations? What is he expecting from a defense in terms of the front and coverage? And I think you're seeing him begin to play faster from under center.
Rookies in the backfield. Davis will start at the receiver. Carr 1st and 10. Waller the tight end. From behind, he was hit and brought down by Clayton Geathers. He gets out to about the 31, picks up 5 on the play on the offensive line. Gabe Jackson still out, but close. Devy in his spot. He's not 100%. It's the second start for Incognito. The release of wide receiver Ryan Grant this week. Return wide receiver Dwayne Harris. He'll miss his second straight. We talked about Trevor Davis. You'll see him today. J.J. Nelson is a scratch pregame, tightness in his leg. 2nd down and 3 after the gain of 7. And they go to the other tight end. This is also a rookie for this team, Foster Moreau. He's out of LSU on a gain of 4, and they get a 1st down. The Colt defense struggled last week against Atlanta. They couldn't stop the pass. They're banged up, too. They'll be shorthanded. No Tyquan Lewis on the line. Muhammad has got a neck injury. Sheard will see a lot of time for the first time on this line. Darius Leonard out as a linebacker. Walker will move in there. Okereke will start in the middle. In the secondary, Malik Hooker is out. 1st and 10. Outside they go. Rookie Renfro out of Clemson. Hunter Renfro brought down from behind by Rock Yassin. And the gain, a catch and run to the 46. A pickup of 10 for the Raiders. Another 1st down.
The Raiders have actually started games fast. You look at, they've scored twice on their first possession through the first 3 weeks. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Saturday night, John Gruden scripts the first 20 plays. And I think Derek Carr has a lot of input in terms of what makes it on the script.
Richard is the new running back. And now he'll go wide, and now they bring in as running back DeAndre Washington. Running back by committee with the Raiders. It's 1st down and 10. Carr. Washington getting a block from Richard, and he'll dance a little bit on this sideline. 2nd tackle made by Clayton Geathers, and it's a gain of 6 on the play. Yeah, he scripts all of his plays, John does, as most coaches do to start games.
And he's got a big script. Kevin, look at that call sheet. I would say it's voluminous. There's a lot on there, and he has certain categories for individual players. You know, if he wants to get the ball to the tight end, if he wants to get the ball to Tyrell Williams, he's got a section on the call sheet specifically for those players.
Was it that big when you played for him?
Absolutely. I think it's only gotten bigger.
2nd down 4. Jacobs is in. The rookie out of Alabama breaks a tackle, and with a nice cut, he's in the secondary. Brought down to the play by Kari Willis. He is a rookie out of Michigan State. It's a gain of 12. He swerves to the 35 of the Colts.
And just watch the block by the fullback Ingold on the linebacker, and that sprees Josh Jacobs. And I think the key for the Raiders is they've got to be able to run the football. They weren't very good a season ago. They're just 25th in rushing, and that's why they used one of those #1 draft picks on Josh Jacobs. Problem, Kevin, he had 28 carries week 1. Week 2, that number dropped to 12. Last week, all the way down to 10. He needs more touches.
2 tight ends, 1st and 10.
Derek Carr's got a lot of freedom and flexibility at the line of scrimmage to change plays.
Jacobs angled the block. Moreau a block, and he gets about a yard. He's down to the 34. All kinds of guys had a hand on that, including Okereke, and in the secondary, Geathers.
I really like Josh Jacobs. You know, he played as a true freshman at Alabama. He's a shifty back with plenty of speed and quickness. Kind of a no-nonsense approach to run his running style. He's very quick to get downhill. Got elite lower body strength. He's a hard tackle in the open field.
Only running back taken in the 1st round of the previous draft. 7th play of the game-opening drive, 2nd and 9. Jacobs again, blocked by Moreau. Around his ankle, Sheard, who's playing his 1st game for the Colts this year. Number 93, yep, we got you, gain of 3. He's down to the 31.
Well, getting Jabal Sheard back is significant, Kevin, not just in terms of what he can do in terms of rushing the passer, but his run defense. Really nice play. They're working on the rookie tight end, Foster Moreau.
Drive started at the Oakland 25. Big plays, a pass, a 10 to Renfro. Run at 12 by Jacobs. 3rd down and 6.
Well, the crowd noise here is certainly an issue. It's going to make it very difficult on Carr communicating at the line of scrimmage.
Richard in the backfield. Carr swings one to the side, caught by Waller, and he did it right in front of the defensive back, Quincy Wilson. A gain of 7 on 3rd and 6. Raiders to the 24 with a 1st down.
Really nice throw from Carr. He's going to get pushed in his face. You look at the tight end Waller working against zone coverage. He's got to sit down between the nickel and the corner, and Derek Carr is talking to him.
Carr, 2-time Pro Bowler. Had a great season a year ago, over 4,000 yards. He's 5 of 5 on this drive. Jacobs in the backfield, 1st and 10. 2 tight ends, Jacobs. Blocked by Brown, the right tackle. Tackled on the play by Anthony Walker. Gain of 5 to the 19-yard line of the Colts.
This is a big offensive line. You look at that right tackle, Trent Brown. Kevin, he's 6'8". He's 380 pounds. You know, you look at the left tackle, you look at those guards, Incognito, big man inside, of course, Rodney Hudson. They have the advantage up front. Where the Colts have the advantage is their quickness.
2nd down and 5. Good time.
Good protection.
And the throw, and he's got him! Waller, touchdown! Make it Moreau, the other tight end, Foster Moreau. 18-yard touchdown pass. Carr to the rookie, working on Yasin.
And this really goes back, I think, Kevin, to the protection. You just watch Carr. He's going to have a nice cup pocket here. He's able to sit in there. And this is the thing with Carr. The ball's out so quick. As I mentioned in the open, if he would just take that extra hitch, allow these receivers and tight ends to get a chance to work down the field. They really like Foster Moreau out of LSU. Terrific inline player, but I think he's really improved over the last couple of weeks as a route runner. He does a lot of the dirty work for the Raiders.
4th round rookie out of LSU. Top 10 tight end receiver in the history of LSU football, and comes in with only his 5th reception of the season. 1st career NFL touchdown. Carr on the drive, 6 of 6, and Carlson makes it 7-0 Oakland. They buzzsaw through the Colts defense. A big play right here. The rookie Moreau, skies for 6. Raiders on top. With his back to you, the offensive coordinator Greg Olson, all part of putting that script together for David Carr. But make no mistake, Gruden's fingerprints all over that game-opening drive, Rich.
Yeah, Derek Carr was perfect, Kevin. 6 of 6 for 53 yards. Impressive drive, 10 plays, 75 yards. They look sharp. The tempo was good, and that's what they need. You go on the road last week, they fell behind 21-0. It's so important to get off to a good start on the road.
Carlson's kickoff over the head of the rookie Paris Campbell. It's out of the end zone. It goes to the 25 and a touchback coming off his best performance of the season. Quarterback Jacoby Brissett has thrown at least 2 touchdown passes, Rich. In each game so far, a top 11 quarterback in touchdowns, percentage, and quarterback rating.
And clearly he has the arm strength to make all the required throws, and I think the physical tools to really succeed at this level. And I really admire this guy's toughness, Kevin. You know, it wasn't easy for him. He didn't come into the league with a silver spoon in his mouth. He really had to work very hard for every opportunity.
He's got Mack in the backfield.
19,
First and 10. Marlon Mack wrapped up by P.J. Hall on that line. Nice play by Hall. High-ranked defensive tackle out of Sam Houston State. They lose a yard on the play. The offensive line, Pro Football Focus has them as one of the top 10 in the game. And Nelson is all pro, but 3 first-round picks on that line.
A lot of their money's invested.
Yes, and in the receiving core, no T.Y. Hilton. That means Kane and Campbell more prominent, as the tight ends will be in the focus too, Ebron and Doyle. Second down, 11. And Brissett to the air, incomplete. Looking on the play for Campbell, and covered on the play by former #1 pick Gary Conley. So it was one Buckeye against another right there. Third down penalty is a problem last week for the Raider D in Minnesota. Corey Liuget is up for the first time. They're going to move Furl a little bit more outside. Hankins and Hurst in the middle. Linebacker injuries. They've lost Markel Lee. He's gone for the year. Everyone else was nicked up last week against the Vikings. In the secondary, LaMarcus Joyner, high-priced free agent, will have a bigger role today. Play more snaps, they tell us. Third down, 11. Costanza the block at the left tackle. Brissett. And, beautiful deflection by the aforementioned Joyner. Former starter in the Super Bowl II for the Rams. He just about had the pick. And the punting unit out there for the Colts, and a good defensive stand for Oakland.
Really nice job. You're going to watch Joyner. He's down here. He's going to work all the way back and actually make this play on the tight end. Doyle going to the corner. Just a good alert play by the veteran nickel. He almost picks that off. I don't think Jacoby Brissett ever felt LaMarcus Joyner.
Rigoberto Sanchez will punt for the first time for the Colts, and deep back is Trevor Davis. It's shallow, it's wobbly on the fly from the 40. Chased and brought down by newly signed Ashton Doolin off the practice squad Friday for the Colts. 38-yard punt. Almost a pick right there by the Raider D in Indy.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Honda. Great deals are waiting at your Honda dealer. Corona Extra. Find your beach. And by McDonald's. Try the new spicy barbecue glazed chicken tenders.
There's our man, John Schriff, and yesterday morning members of the good job, John, in the Indianapolis community, and our own John Schriffen participated in a 5K run walk that helped raise over $160,000 for the kids of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. We thank John. We thank all those that participated. After a 3-and-out by the Colts, first and 10, Carr at his 40. After an 18-yard touchdown pass, it's an end around. It goes off to Trevor Davis with the blocker ahead. He's got Miller, he got a block from Waller, and he's going to take it in for the touchdown! 60-yard run in his Raider debut, Trevor Davis! Wow!
How about a little misdirection? Here's the reverse, but watch all the action that you're going to get from this Colts defense when they see the fake toss to Josh Jacobs. And you're going to see Waller gets out in front. You see the left tackle downfield, Colton Miller. And Kevin, this is a guy they just traded for last week. I mean, he's literally had to come in and learn the offense, and now he scores on their second possession.
They say he knows about 50%, but boy, that 50% is good. The extra point is up and in right there by Carlson. 2 possessions, 2 Raiders scores. This will stun some people. 14-0 Oakland. Trevor Davis has had all kinds of injury problems, Rich, in his career. Green Bay traded him. 6th round pick given up by the Raiders. Was there but did not play last week. active today, and boy, has he put his fingerprints on this one.
But he comes from a system of football that is similar to what they do in Oakland. I think he's got some history in this system, and I think he understands the techniques and fundamentals of playing all three positions.
Here's the ensuing kickoff. Campbell will let it go over his head. Davis, by the way, has missed 19 games in his first 3 seasons. We celebrate 100 seasons of NFL football by looking back at the 77 AFC divisional playoff game. Raiders and Colts. It featured the famous ghost to the post 42-yard connection. Stabler to Dave Casper that set up the game-winning field goal in the final minute of regulation. Casper's third touchdown of the game clinched a Raiders win 37-31 in double overtime. Well, now, Rich, you're Brissett. You're not even out of the first quarter. You're down 14-0 with just your second possession.
Nothing changes, though, in terms of the game plan. They need to take a deep breath, settle down, and just try and execute the offense.
Mack wrapped up and taken down. Josh Morrow jumping on his back, bringing him down. He is a free agent from the New York Giants. He throws him for a 5-yard loss.
Just watch. Right before the snap of the ball, he's going to jump in that B gap between the center and the guard, and the right tackle, Smith's got no chance. It's a very difficult block. You weren't anticipating Morrow jumping in that gap.
Raiders go to 5 in the secondary here. A loss of 5 right there. Second down, 15. Mack in the backfield. Somebody moved, and maybe a false start.
I think it's Glowinski, the right guard.
False start, offense, number 64. 5-yard penalty, second down.
Now second down and 20, Glowinski.
And this is what Raider defensive coordinator Paul Guenther told us yesterday, Kevin, that they need to be better on first and second down than they've been the last couple of weeks and really get the Colts in as many third down situations as they possibly can. You can win on first and second down, force Jacoby Brissett to have a lot of third and longs.
Wilkins in motion out of the backfield. Jordan Wilkins, first time he's been in, second down and 20. Good block by Nelson across the middle. Chester can't hold on to it. Chester Rogers across the middle. Bobbled it, dropped it, incomplete. And again, no T.Y. Hilton if you're joining us here right now. He has an injury and he's out.
Well, if you're a young person watching at home, you can't let those balls get on your pads. You got to be able to catch the ball with extended hands. And you look at the veteran Rogers, he lets that ball get in on his body.
Raiders are going to stay with 5 in their secondary with a 3rd and 20. The Colts need their 35. Mack back in. Brissett blocked by Costanzo. Going deep and dropped it incomplete, and they were going for Ebron. A wide receiver and a tight end body. Incomplete, and linebacker coverage. 4th and 20. Second consecutive punt for Indy.
Well, this was close, but this is a very tight throw. You see Ebron working up the slot. He's being trailed by the corner, Worley, and of course he's got help over the top from the safety, Eric Harris. Harris sticks his helmet right on that ball.
Second 3 and out for Indianapolis. Sanchez back inside his 5. Trevor Davis back for the Raiders inside the 45. And drifting to the 31. Got the move. That's a couple guys up there blocking. Flag is thrown. Brought down on the play by the linebacker. That was Matthew Adams who starts. It was a 13-yard return. It was a 55-yard Sanchez punt with our referee Scott Novak checking things out at the other end. Raiders have scored an 18-yard touchdown pass to a rookie tight end.
During the return, legal block in the back. Receiving team number 32. 10-yard penalty. First down.
Dallin Levitt will pick it up. And Carr's also gotten a 60-yard end-around touchdown run for a 14-0 first quarter lead.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Verizon, the network more people rely on. And by Sonic. This is how you Sonic.
Colts celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month this past Monday. They held a free youth clinic. Chance for the kids to meet the players. From the 23, Carr, 3rd possession. First down and 10. Rookie backfield. Fake to Jacobs. Waller was in the sights of the quarterback, but there was some great pressure put on him right there by the former teammate of Carr's, Danico Autry, a former Raider.
Well, the one thing we know about Derek Carr, he gets the ball out quick. Last year, he had the fastest average time to throw at 2.55 seconds. And through the first 3 games of the season, he's even faster at 2.51 seconds. So he doesn't hold it very long. And I think, you look at his anticipation and accuracy, Kevin, that's really what jumps out when you study the film. Big reason why he's completing over 73% of his passes.
And yet Minnesota got him 4 times. A fumble by the rookie and recovered on the play by Justin Houston. He gets up, he runs, he takes it in. Was the ball loose? Was there a whistle blown? They say he was down, but the Colts take over. The Raiders have fumbled, and the rookie Jacobs couldn't hold on. Deep in Oakland territory. First big play of the game for Indianapolis.
And watch Derek Carr. He's going to look away. And I think when he goes to stick the ball in, it's kind of high. And I think the other thing, Kevin, is the running back can't reach for it. That's a rookie mistake by Josh Jacobs. You see him reach for it with his hands. See that pocket? And I think he reaches for it with his right hand between Carr and Jacobs. It doesn't get done. You can blame both. There's the responsibility for both when that ball's on the ground. Just simply can't have it. That's a big mistake in that part of the field.
And the Colts get outstanding field position at the 22 of the Oakland Raiders.
Well, good offenses have the ability to take advantage of short fields and turnovers. Great opportunity for Jacoby Brissett in this Colts offense.
Colts have won 7 consecutive games at home. Second longest current streak in the league, and back of the 15 straight by the Patriots. Campbell in motion, 1st and 10. Brissett. Mack. Got a block by Pascal. He's going to get a block by Campbell. He's inside the 5. Great run by Mack. Taken to the 4, 18-yard run, 1st and goal to go, the Colts.
Well, somebody's got to seal. And what happens is you have all these defenders. Somebody's got to play the edge. I mean, look at this wall right here for the back. I mean, that's just way too easy.
And finally, he was brought down to the play by Eric Harris.
Somebody's got to be able to set the edge and contain in that Raiders front 7.
1st and goal at the 4. Mack from Brissett. And stoned right there by Whitehead. And up high, they got a tackle by Carl Joseph. No gain in the play. They stay 2nd down and goal.
Well, you know the Raiders spent a lot of time this week, Kevin, on their run defense. They got gashed last week against the Vikings. They got up 211 yards, and defensive coordinator Paul Gunther said it's been a point of emphasis all week. We've got to play better in our front 7. We've got to be able to get off blocks. We've got to be able to tackle better and not have those explosive runs.
With a 2nd down and goal, here they go with a fake to Mack. It's Brissett. Touchdown, Doyle. Great fake, and they get the touchdown pass of 5 yards. And they cash in on the Raider fumble.
You look at these RPOs and really the good play action fake inside, and if you just keep an eye on Doyle, he's going to work all the way across the formation. Jack Doyle, the jack of all trades. This guy does so many little things right. You talk about Jacoby Brissett's ability to throw the ball accurately on the move outside the pocket, moving to his left.
Doyle has his first touchdown reception of the season. With the extra point here by Vinatieri. And it will slice through. Late first quarter, 14-7 Raiders. We'll be back in 30 seconds after this from AT&T. Jacoby Brissett has just thrown his 8th touchdown pass of the season, as they continue to put things together after the retirement of Andrew Luck. So the Colts back in it with a touchdown right there. They are in first place coming into today. They are 2-1. Raiders are 1-2. They've lost 2 straight games. Now the ensuing kickoff. Sanchez booting it. Trevor Davis. End around touchdown will take it from the goal line for the Raiders in his Oakland debut. And then brought down on the play by Milligan. 24-yard return. Here is what Derek Carr hears in his helmet in a noisy stadium like this.
Yeah, we had a little fun before the game. We borrowed his helmet. There's the speakers, the orange speakers, and sometimes, Kevin, as you know, very difficult to hear.
Hey, remind Tyrell to cut his split. We're expecting a 2 deep look now. Let's go explode the trips right. Nickel 40. If you get a 3 deep or a pressure, kill it. The 350 X slow goes DC. Come on now, 5 deep completion.
And that's what you would hear from John Gruden.
That's what he hears. He's going to be able to process all that information, relay that to the guys in the huddle, and make good decisions.
From the 24, Jacobs. Oh, he corkscrews his way, and Sheard will stop him, along with getting some help on that defensive line from Grover Stewart. It is a gain of 7 and a good one up the middle for the rookie.
And the problem is with the crowd noise, sometimes you can't hear clearly. Sometimes the communication system breaks down. Derek Carr has to have a play available. So John Gruden's really good about giving the personnel grouping first. He may say you've got Zebra in the game, you've got Tiger in the game. He may give tips and reminders, and then finally he gives them a package of plays that he can get to at the line of scrimmage.
Second down, 3. Here comes Carr with pressure, and he throws it away. And the pressure came from Danico Autry. Autry's gotten through there a couple times. Let's take you to New York. James Brown in the CBS studio.
Matthew Stafford has this play down.
That's right. He drops back, surveys the field. He finds T.J. Hockenson in the back of the end zone. That's a 5-yard TD. The Lions up early over Kansas City, 10-0.
First rule of television: don't step on Kevin Harlan. Back to Kevin Harlan.
Come on. I'm the one who did the step, and I should have gotten it to you early. Thank you, guys. Look forward to those updates. That's a big one up in Detroit. 3rd down and 3. Richard is in the backfield. Pitch out to Richard. Blocked by Brown. Block out there from Renfro. And he gets into the grasp of Willis. It is a gain of 4 on 3rd and 3. And that is a Raider first down.
Now, we talked about the challenges sometimes in a dome stadium. He can't hear the plays, asking John Gruden to repeat the play call. And that is frustrating. You see John Gruden, he's got on his left hand there, he's got the talk-back button. And he's the one that communicates the plays into Derek Carr.
Jacobson. Carr with the 1st and 10. Tyrell Williams. Nice defensive play by the rookie, Khari Willis. Taking the place of the injured hooker. It's a loss of a yard back to the 34.
Boy, alert play, great play by Willis, Kevin. No indecision. I mean, he is downhill in a hurry long before the left tackle can get out and block him, but just a good alert play by the safety.
From Jackson, Michigan. He played at Michigan State. Jackson, Michigan, the hometown of Tony Dungy. Legendary Colt coach. 2nd down, 11. Running back is Richard. 5 in the secondary for the Colts, and that's what Carr is going to look into, and he finds his receiver, Waller. The tight end in the middle, brought down by Gathers. It's a first down for the Raiders, a 17-yard pickup and a first down.
Well, the Colts don't play a lot of man-to-man coverage, so as a quarterback, you have to be patient versus this defense and all the 2-deep zone looks that you see. You have to be willing to throw the ball underneath between those linebackers and safeties.
Richard is in 1st and 10. And the handoff to Richard. Nice block in there. Hudson laid the wood. And the run is down to the 36 of the Colts. Terrific blocking, a 13-yard run.
Well, just watch the guard and the center. They're going to get a good block. And this is a great looking hole for the back. Great job by Rodney Hudson. You see Debbie gets a block. See the receivers downfield, good cutoff. And we talked about the size. This is a big physical offensive line that can get up on you in a hurry.
Richard remains. 4 in the secondary. 1st and 10. Tries to wheel around. Good stop by Walker. He was in there with a hit. Grover Stewart in there too, lending a hand. There's no gain in the play for the Raiders right there.
I've really been impressed with Anthony Walker. He does a lot of things right. Strong performance last week in their win over Atlanta. He was all over the field. He led the team with 15 tackles. He's a Good, bright young player. Makes all the calls on defense. And they really miss Darius Leonard. You know, you look at not having him out there. He's such an instinctive player.
Odom comes in as a 5th DB for the Colts. Speed is out. 8th play of the Oakland drive.
Kill. Here we go. 200.
Seals is it.
2nd down, 10. Jacobs was in, out of the backfield, and here he comes. The tight end, Waller down the sideline. Waller near the 20. Shoved out of bounds on the play by Willis. A catch and run of 15 for one of the top receiving tight ends in the NFL in this early season.
He's really like a receiver. In fact, he played some receiver at Georgia Tech, and you just look at how quickly the ball comes out of Derek Carr's hands, and you've got to be able to make these tackles. You look at Kenny Moore, he just slips and misses, and that's the guy they want to throw the ball to. He leads the team in receptions and yards, and that's kind of Carr's go-to guy right now in the middle of the field.
Leading receiver, one of 4 tight ends in the NFL that leads his team in receiving. 1st and 10, Jacobs. Blocked by Brown, missed tackle by Willis. Belted out of bounds across the way by Yassine. On the play to John downstairs.
Well, Darren Waller seems like he came out of nowhere, but it was offensive coordinator Greg Olsen who discovered him. When the Raiders played the Ravens last year, Waller was on the Ravens practice squad. He didn't play in that game, but he did warm up before it. Olsen noticed how big he was and how well he could run and throw. He told Gruden about it. Gruden actually signed him the very next day.
How about that? Good story. Jacobs in the backfield with a 2nd down and 7.
That's good coaching.
You're
out on the field before the game. You're watching a guy that's not even going to play in the game, and you tell your coach, hey, he's a guy we should look at. He was on the practice squad a couple games last year, Kevin. He certainly benefited from that time. They moved on from Jared Cook in free agency. They really like Darren Waller.
Touchdown pass and an end-around touchdown by Davis for the Raiders. Doyle's caught a touchdown pass for the Colts on CBS. Rich through 15 minutes of football. Here are some of our numbers in Indianapolis today.
And the ones that really jump out at you at the bottom of that graphic. I mean, they've dominated time of possession, and they've had great balance offensively. The Raiders have had 11 runs and 11 passes and already 22 offensive snaps in the first quarter.
So on this drive, Jacobs has run for 7. Waller has caught 2 passes for 17 and 15. Richard had a run of 13, 10th play of the drive, 2nd down, 7, 3 tight ends in there for Derek Carr. One of the tight ends here, Waller. Trying to get a block from Carrier, losing a yard. All kinds of guys out there, including Al-Quadin Muhammad, who's playing with a neck injury today. They read it well, the Indy defense did.
And Muhammad really played well the first 3 weeks without Jabal Shear in the lineup. Been really impressed with him, his ability to rush the passer and also to be stout against the run.
Five in the secondary, 3rd and 8. Washington, the running back. Timeout, Carr. Derek Carr saw something Rich he didn't like with what they have.
Well, they've got to be able to find some targets down in this part of the field. You know, you think about the Raiders, their top 4 red zone targets from a season ago are no longer with the team, including tight end Jared Cook, one of Carr's favorite targets. So someone else needs to emerge in this part of the field. We know about Darren Waller, but Kevin, my concern is where are they at with the receiving core? I like Tyrell Williams. He's their ex-receiver. We're seeing Trevor Davis play a lot. You know, I certainly don't want to talk about the obvious, but you know, they put so much into the flanker position with Antonio Brown right before the start of the season. They move on from him. They haven't been able to find a replacement for the most important position at the wide receiver group.
Odom is in, 6 in the secondary, 3rd and 8. Blocked by Miller at the left tackle to the end zone. Caught for a touchdown! Tyrell Williams! And he beats Quincy Wilson. A 2nd touchdown pass for Derek Carr. This one for 19.
All 7 of his 3rd down receptions have moved the chains. This one goes for a touchdown. Man-to-man coverage. And Williams does a terrific job just stopping and coming back for the football. Quincy Wilson never feels the throw from Derek Carr.
Tyrell Williams, 4th touchdown reception. He has caught a touchdown in every game of this young season so far. with Carlson trying to tack on one more. It is up and away. The Raiders, over the last 2 games, scored a total of 24 points. Here in less than 2 quarters, they've scored 21. Carr to Williams for 6 for Oakland. Back in Indianapolis, Derek Carr has thrown 2 touchdown passes so far for the Raiders.
They've looked sharp. The tempo's great, Kevin. You know, you just look at how they've started this game on the road. Last week, it was a much different story against the Vikings. They fell behind 21-0. Talk all week was about getting off to a fast start. In terms of the Colts, they've had only 9 offensive snaps in the first quarter. I think you look at what has to change. They've got to be able to settle down a little bit, get Jacoby Brissett back in a rhythm.
Daniel Carlson will kick off again for the Raiders. Campbell is back over his head out of the end zone. Touchback to the 25-yard line for the Indianapolis Colts. And Saturday, the best game from the best conference. 7th-ranked Auburn will go into Gainesville and take on 9th-rated Florida in the Swamp. Starting with college football today at 3 Eastern. Right here on CBS. Yesterday, Florida shut down Townsend 38-zip, and Auburn manhandled Mississippi State 56-23. Jacoby Brissett, who grew up in Florida. Speaking of the Florida Gators, that's where he played for a couple years until he transferred to North Carolina State. He's got a 1st and 10. Mack in the backfield. Good block there by Glowinski and by Smith. He's going deep for Campbell. Broken up on the play. 2 of them back there, including the defensive back, Carl Joseph, the other, Eric Harris. Incomplete pass.
Well, we know that Campbell's got top-end speed, but this is covered. You look at both safeties are working down in the middle of the field. Even if that was better thrown, it would have been a difficult catch because of the angle that Carl Joseph was taking coming from the opposite side.
White 19,
In the 2nd down and 10, Marlon Mack, the top running backs in the NFL, corkscrews by 1. Grabbed in the secondary there by Darrell Worley. It is a gain of 7 on 2nd and 10. Put him at the Colt 32.
I really like Marlon Mack. He's got a variety of gears to accelerate in the open field. He had over 900 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns a season ago, despite missing the first 4 games of the season. I think he's really where he's really improved is in the passing game. He's willing to sit in there and make the block on the edge, and excellent screen runner as well.
Learned some stuff from Frank Gore, who was a running back here at one time. 3rd down and 3. In motion was Naheem Hines. Here they come, and there he goes. He needs the 35. He's got the 1st down, and Joyner is there to stop him. To the 40-yard line. That's a scramble, a run by Jacoby Brissett for 9 in the 1st down.
What I like about Jacoby Brissett, he's very strong in the pocket, and he's also extremely athletic. He can extend plays with his legs, and he's a lot bigger than you think. He's 6'4", 235 pounds.
He came in that draft as the 5th quarterback selected a couple years ago. It went Wentz, Goff, Paxton Lynch, Christian Hackenberg, then Brissett, drafted by New England. 1st and 10, fake to Mack, good block by Smith, and dropped in there by Ebron, who has been known to do that. It's incomplete at the 45 of the Raiders, and on the field, John Schriffen.
Well, Jacoby Brissett was very open with us in our meeting with him yesterday. He told us back in week 15 of 2017, it was one of the lowest moments he's had in his NFL career. It was after a loss to the Broncos. He went into the locker room and was pulled over by quarterback coach Brian Schottenheimer. He looked him in his eye and he told him, just let it out. He actually cried in the arms of his quarterback coach because of all the beating up he had taken all season.
2nd and 10, here comes Mack with that stiff arm, which he's known for. Conley will steer him out of bounds, and a nice run to the 46. It is a gain of 7 on the play.
Yeah, really, I think he went through some very difficult stretches during that 2017 season, John. He got knocked around. He was sacked 52 times, and I think through it all, you found out a lot about this guy's character and toughness, Kevin, in terms of playing the position. I think that's really what stood out to head coach Frank Reich when he went back and evaluated that roster. The first thing he said was, look, we know we've got a top 20 quarterback in Jacoby Brissett.
Wilkins in the backfield. It is 3rd down and 3. This is Wilkins pulling Costanzo. Blocked by Nelson. He's got the 1st. Galloping and hurtling to the 43 with a flag. Brought down on the play by P.J. Hall. Gain of 9 as it stands right now.
There are fouls against both teams on the play. Holding, offense, number 78. Tripping, defense, number 50. Penalties offset, 3rd down.
That look. So Brissett was drafted by New England 3rd round. He was a backup to Jimmy Garoppolo. And remember, Garoppolo was starting and Brissett was backing up as a rookie when Brady had been suspended 4 games because of Deflategate.
Yeah, and I think here's a quarterback that's really prepared, I think, for this opportunity because of what he went through back in 2017. One thing I see from him, he's not holding the ball as long, Kevin. The ball's coming out a lot quicker and on time.
3rd down, 3. Got him at the 48. Catch made by Doyle. Tackle made by Joyner. Flag thrown. Right now, there's another late flag thrown from the secondary. Gain to the 48. It's good for a 1st down here. And let's see what that flag is about. The Colts are one of the least penalized teams in pro football.
This is going to get Vontaze Burfict right
Personal
here.
foul.
Helmet to helmet.
Unnecessary roughness on a defense, number 55. 15 yards will be added to the end of the play. 1st down.
Well, that's dangerous. You can't lead with the helmet, and he knows it.
And the league knows it too about Burfict. He has had his run-ins before, suspensions and fines.
So you can't take aim to initiate contact. Really, we talk a lot about you have to see what you're going to hit. The head should always be up. That's how players get hurt.
The previous play is being reviewed.
So as they take a look at that, we will step aside. 2 car touchdown passes for the Raiders. A short touchdown pass by Brissett on CBS.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Amazon Prime. One-day delivery on millions of items with Prime. Modelo, a taste that's pure gold, brewed for those with a fighting spirit. And by Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
We've had an ejection. And out of the game and gone for it, Vontaze Burfict. Let's go to our rules analyst in New York, and Gene Steratore. And Gene, walk us through this one.
Kevin, this is exactly why the NFL put in this procedure. We have illegal use of the helmet, lowering the head to initiate contact, as we can all see right here with Vontaze Burfict. Once that call is made on the field, now New York can get involved if they feel or deem that action can rise to a level of a disqualification. And I think it's a really good job of New York getting involved. And we don't want this play in the game, guys.
Well, you wonder if it had anything to do with his past, his history. Vontaze Burfict had some issues when he was with the Bengals, personal fouls and ejections, and clearly the call on the field was a penalty, but the ejection came from New York.
Rich, from my experience, even though they may have a history, I may talk to those players before the game a little.
For Oakland has been disqualified from the game.
But I would tell you, once the game starts, Rich, he's just number 55 in a white jersey to me, and each play is in itself in that vacuum, and it's a good job right now just based on the action that we've seen.
That's a big loss for the Raiders because Burfict is their defensive signal caller. He makes all the calls, and where's that helmet? The communication system.
Kyle Wilber replaces him. 1st and 10. Marlon Mack into the secondary. Brought down by Eric Harris. He's inside the 20 to the Raider 19 and a romp of 14 yards by Mack.
I just want you to watch right here. You've got to be able to take on the block with the right shoulder. You watch. He should take this on with his left shoulder and not his right shoulder. He's got to force this ball back up inside. And you talk about the importance of angles, and you talk about the importance of Vontaze Burfict. Communication is going to be an issue. You look at all the issues that they had at the linebacker position.
Mack 1st and 10. And tackled again by Eric Harris, who's a 4th-year player. There's a flag thrown on the play. Gain of 5, puts him down at the 14. Busy afternoon so far for Scott Novak.
Well, last week they were so banged up at the linebacker position that defensive coordinator Paul Guenther said they had to play nickel and dime against some of the heavy run sets that they were seeing from the Vikings.
So they signed a couple linebackers this week, one of which is up, Justin Phillips, who was in the Dallas training camp and now a Raider.
There are fouls against both teams on the play. Legal block in the back. Offense, number 85. Holding, defense, number 94. Those penalties offset. First down.
That's Corey Leggett on the Raider side. Here's that linebacker situation.
Yeah, you know, you lose Burfict. You've got Nicholas Morrow. He's dealing with an ankle. You've got Wilbur's got a quad. You're signing players off the practice squad. They're very thin right now at the linebacker position.
5 in the secondary, first and 10. Wilkins outside. He got by Worley, ushered out of bounds by Harris. Turning the corner right there. Jordan Wilkins injured in camp with an ankle. He had a big run against Tennessee week 2. Picks up 6 right there.
I like that. They've got 3 very good backs, I think, that are all interchangeable. You mentioned Mack, you've got Hines, and certainly Jordan Wilkins is capable as well.
2nd and 4. Flag is down. Wilkins again works into Joyner, who's playing a lot more defense. For that price tag they paid to get him, Wilkins picks up 2. You see the flag. Game was down to about the 11-yard line.
Offside. Defense, number 95, lined up in the neutral zone. 5-yard penalty. First down.
You see the frustration from John Gruden. The penalties have been a problem for this football team, and this just isn't something new. You go back over the years, and they need to clean up the penalties. The Raiders have actually had 19 consecutive seasons with 100 or more penalties. That's an NFL record. Last year they had less than 100 was back in 1999.
Mack is in, first and goal.
19.
Brissett. And grabbed on a quick cross right there. The tackle made by Whitehead. It was the rookie out of Ohio State, Paris Campbell, with the reception. He picks up 2 to the 6.
And Whitehead was the linebacker who called the signals last year for the Raiders, and now with Vontaze Burfict out, he'll have that green dot on his helmet. He'll have the communication system. He'll be responsible for helping to get everybody lined up and to make all those calls.
Raiders with a 4-2-5 defense. 2nd goal at the 6. Noelle Cox is in, offering. Oh, what a great defensive play! Joyner again, rocketing through and making the stop for the Raiders. Back at the 10, losing 4. He has made a difference already.
Well, just watch him. He's just going to time this thing up and hit it. And LaMarcus Joyner is a smart, instinctive player. He does this on his own and played for the Rams last year. He's got a history of playing the nickel corner. He can play the safety position. He brings some great versatility. And the other thing he brings is some leadership and some toughness. He talked to us last night about trying to establish an identity on defense.
Hines is in, 3rd and goal. Brissett. Hines brought down on the play by Garyon Conley. Number 1 pick out of Ohio State 3 years ago. They limit him into a gain of 2. And the Raider defense holds, Rich. They hold him out of the end zone. There was a goal to go there. The defense does their job. And here comes the field goal unit for Indy.
And that gentleman right there, defensive coordinator Paul Guenther, is going to have to adjust a little bit. You wonder if they're going to be able to play with the entire package that they have prepared for without Vontaze Burfict.
So here is Vinatieri and the struggles he's had early on. Well-known 26-yarder right here. That one's perfect for the 46-year-old Adam Vinatieri. 3 more on the board for the Colts, who trail 21-10 on CBS. Back in Indianapolis, the verdict is in. America's #1 drama is All Rise. It's the CBS original series that critics call a must-watch. Catch a new episode of All Rise tomorrow on CBS. The roof could be open. They have elected for a 2nd consecutive week to keep it closed here in Indianapolis. With the ensuing kickoff after the Vinatieri 26-yard field goal, Sanchez kicks it out of the end zone. Touchback to the 25.
Well, the first priority in the offseason was surrounding Derek Carr with more weapons, and it started with the signing of Tyrell Williams in free agency from the Chargers, and he's had a touchdown reception in each of their first 4 games. He's a big receiver who's really effective, I think, working in the middle of the field, and he's got some terrific straight line speed. He'll go up and high point the football, and clearly that's Carr's top target on the outside perimeter.
4 in the secondary. Washington in the backfield. 1st and 10 for Derek Carr. Dropped. Washington 2nd and 10.
Well, we've seen some drops from both teams, and
yeah,
I'd say that frustrates a quarterback. You know, you go through your reads, your progression, you make a good decision, you make an accurate throw, and then the receiver or the back or the tight end just drops it. You know, DeAndre Washington anxious to take a peek and get upfield.
Colts defense without Malik Hooker, without Darius Leonard. 2 defensive starters, 4 defensive rookies. Prominent roles today for the Colts. 2nd down and 10. Washington. And he goes right into the grasp of Walker. He led him last week against the Atlanta Falcons with 15 tackles. It's a gain of 3. He's to the 28.
This is a good look by this Colts defense, this double-A gap look where they get the linebacker and the safety up inside here, and it makes it very difficult to determine who's coming and who's dropping.
Into the nickel, Richard in the backfield, 3rd down and 7. Richard with the block, and he goes underneath, and was it scooped in? Here goes Yassine, picks it up and on the way with an entourage. They say he is down.
Rock Yassine, he's going to come in from...
That's an
I think
incompletion.
it hits the ground, but he's coming in from that corner. He's actually in a zone technique. He's playing with his eyes in the backfield, and he feels the slot receiver, Hunter Renfrow, break out. Just really well designed by the Colts, and they get a hit. They get a big lick on Derek Carr as well.
He got bumped by his former teammate Autry. Deep back to get this punt from the Raiders, Chester Rogers. Raider punt is away by A.J. Cole. Rogers from the 16, hang time of 5 seconds, and here he goes. And hit by the reserve tight end Derek Carrier. 56-yard punt, 13-yard return. Back in 30 after this from Progressive Insurance. Rich, that's not good news. They're taking a look at Derek Carr on that Raiders side. And now you can see the hobble.
Yeah, they can't afford to lose Carr. He's looked really sharp through the first quarter and a half of football.
Mike Glennon warming up. 1st and 10. Brissett. Good block by Smith at the right tackle. They got him! Chester Rogers gets it in. Worley takes him out and put him at the Oakland 38. 27-yard reception by Chester Rogers.
Really nice route by Chester Rogers, and just a terrific play-action fake by Jacoby Brissett. It really holds those linebackers, and see a big hole between the corner and the safety.
Brissett 5 of 11. Marlon Mack in the backfield, the 3rd leading rusher in the NFL coming into today.
50, Sunday, let's go!
Mack. Doyle block. And then the eventual tackle was made by P.J. Hall. It is a gain of 3, put him at the 35.
I really like Jack Doyle. The more I watch him play, he's a very unselfish player, extremely productive, crafty route runner. He's got good hands. He's a willing participant in terms of blocking in the running game. Frank Reich says he always does the right thing.
Let's go, 5-9. I'm going. Yeah.
Watching Carr with great scrutiny on the sideline. The athletic training staff, 2nd down 7. Running back is Jordan Wilkins. Into the nickel. Wilkins. And grabbed and not letting go is Eric Harris. Third year with the Raiders, mainly a special teams guy, playing a lot today as he did last week in a 6-yard gain there by Wilkins. And at the 29 of Oakland.
A lot of talk about Frank Reich as a play caller. I love his aggressiveness, but I love his commitment to running the football. It's a big reason why they're a top 5 rushing team.
There goes Brissett. He dumps it off to Doyle, and he dives for the first down. Taken down by Joseph. Put him at the 21. 8-yard catch by Doyle. He's got 3 receptions and a touchdown today.
Yeah, Doyle's the end man on the line of scrimmage. He's going to be blocking, and then he just comes off late. And easy for Jacoby Brissett, but a lot of their plays look the same but are different. And again, the play action game's so effective because of how well they run the football.
Look at Frank Reich. Boy, he knows something about playing quarterback. 14 years he did it in the NFL. Handling his young quarterback, Jacoby Brissett, with the 1st and 10. The fake to Wilkins. Time. And the toss. Incomplete. Looking for Zach Pascal. He caught a touchdown pass in that same area last week against Atlanta. Worley on the coverage, among others, for the Raiders secondary. Well, coming up in the Verizon Halftime Report, JB, Phil, Nate, Boomerang, Coach Cower for the latest scores, news, and highlights from New York. All next, the Verizon Halftime Report. Here we've had 2 touchdown passes by Carr. We've had an end-around touchdown run by the newest Raider, Davis, of 60 yards. Brissett has thrown a 5-yard touchdown after a Raider fumble. 2nd down 10. And it was Joseph who tripped him up. Flag thrown. Marlon Mack got tripped up by Joseph, who was shooting through for the Raider D. Gain of a yard. Ebron's been quiet. Shut out 2 targets, 2 drops by the Pro Bowl tight end for Indy.
Legal block in the back. Offense, number 15. 10-yard penalty. 2nd down.
Paris Campbell.
Yeah, there's only a couple offensive play callers in the league who actually played quarterback in the NFL, and Frank Reich is one of them. He's got a very unique perspective. I think he sees the game through the eyes of the quarterback. He feels the quarterback's rhythm. He's been in that huddle. He's been in the pocket. He knows what it takes to be successful at that position. You look at some of the others. Doug Peterson, another aggressive play caller who Frank worked with in Philadelphia, and of course a couple young ones in Cliff Kingsbury and Kellen Moore, who's getting his first opportunity with the Cowboys.
JJ Theano with that good-looking graphic. 2nd down and 20. Brissett. Right on this. The 3rd drop by Ebron. 3 of them.
I'll tell you what, the quarterback isn't getting a lot of help. Jacoby Brissett should be frustrated. He's made a couple really good throws. Eric Ebron's dropped a couple. There was a drop earlier in the game.
And you're talking about a Pro Bowl tight end who is one of the top 5 receiving tight ends, and that will show his disgust.
And as a result, this is the 4th time the Colts have faced a 3rd and 10 or longer. Drops are killing the Colts right now.
5 in the secondary, Mack in the backfield, 3rd and 20.
Reload. Sunday, go.
They need the 11. Brissett outside. It's caught here by Campbell, blocked by Doyle. Breaks a tackle on the move and close. He may have fumbled. Joseph jumps on it. He did. A fumble, and the Raiders have gotten it. And Carl Joseph vacuums it in. Each team has turned it over. And the rookie coughing it up right there, Paris Campbell.
And keep an eye on Max Crosby. He's going to come in at the end there, and he's able to punch it out with his left hand.
A rookie.
Paris Campbell never feels the other rookie, Max Crosby, coming from behind. Terrific effort play by the rookie defensive end.
What about the Raider defense? A goal line stand before they force a turnover deep in their own zone right there.
This is a much different defense, Kevin, than we saw a week ago against the Vikings when they got gutted for 211 yards on the ground. They're getting off of blocks. They're playing inspired football right now, and they're really helping to set up their offense.
And you see Carr coming in after Joseph just gobbled in that loose ball. That is a good sign. Carr hobbling off the last time. He's got Jacobs in the backfield. Didn't start at Alabama.
Hey, we're good.
First round draft choice, 1st and 10.
Kill. Triple 5-8. 180. What's up?
Josh Jacobs blocking there by Debbie. Oh, he squirms and he turns, and there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. They came at him in waves. Everybody had a hand on it. They lose 2 to the 13 to John downstairs.
Well, it was the left leg of Derek Carr that the Raiders medical staff was looking at. After assessing him, they didn't give him any treatment. They decided to test the leg. He was jumping up and down. His mobility looked good. And as you can see, he's back out there.
But he's had a history of injuries. John, thanks. Pretty tough character there, Rich.
Yeah, he is. You know, he's been knocked around a lot. Sacked a bunch a season ago, and protection has to improve.
2nd and 12. Good protection there. There's Waller, and with a good read on it was Anthony Walker. It's a gain of 5. Put him out at the Raider 18.
We're talking about the pass protection. Carr was sacked. He's been sacked 71 times over the last 2 seasons, including a whopping 52 times last season. Sacked 7 times over the last 2 games, and they know they've got to play better up front to keep their veteran quarterback upright.
2nd year in the system with Gruden. 3rd down and 7. Into the nickel. Carr, quick slant, dropped. Tyrell Williams was right there. Teray was there. They had Yassine. All kinds of good coverage. George Odom was on it.
You got to make this catch.
Yep.
I mean, it's, you know, we're seeing a lot, Kevin, where the ball is getting in on the chest, the sternum area, the shoulder pad area of these receivers. The good ones catch the ball with their hands extended. Both teams with the drops so far in the first half.
2 flags.
You know, they actually have a machine. It's called a jugs machine. You see them out in the practice field.
After the play was over, personal foul.
I'm just saying.
Roughness on the offense in the 65. After pushing to the goal.
2nd straight 3 and out.
John Gruden can be tough on officials.
He can be tough on quarterbacks.
He can be tough in a production meeting. John Gruden used to scream at me all the time, Kevin. It would be in the meetings. It would be in the huddle. Sometimes he said, you remember he was talking yesterday in the meeting, he said, hey, we were playing the Cowboys. You're literally in the middle of a snap count, and we're screaming at each other.
There's the punt by Cole. Rodgers is back and drifts to the 33, and here he goes for Indianapolis. Sieg knocks him down. He's the long snapper. Trent Sieg, 15-yard return, 59-yard punt. And some of the Raider fans here, Verizon halftime report. JB and company, scores, news, highlights, all coming up from our CBS studios in New York, the Verizon halftime report. So you guys always thought we're of the same mind. I mean, I don't know of any quarterback head coach combination that I've ever come across that was more alike than you and Gruden.
Well, we were similar in age. I think we had similar personalities, but I just tell you, and I've kidded with Derek Carr. I said, Derek, he must love you, because I hardly ever see him yell at you. He used to yell at me all the time. I think he's become a lot more lenient in his older age.
1st and 10. Nice run here by Hines, trying to pick and poke his way, and grabbed on the play by Josh Murrow. It's a gain of 2 to the 49. We are at the 2-minute warning in Indy with the Raiders on top.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by The Home Depot. More saving, more doing. And by State Farm. Talk to an agent today at 800-STATE-FARM.
1st and goal exhibit at the Children's Museum, and you're in Indianapolis, Indiana. So here come the Colts. Best record since 2013 at 2-1. They're tied for first place right now in the South. 1-2 straight. Raiders coming in at 1-2. 3 timeouts for Indy. 2nd down, 8. 2-minute offense. Good beginning field position at their 49. Fake handoff to Hines, and here goes Brissett on the move, and there's the reliable Doyle. He goes right in front. There's a flag thrown. Worley was over there.
Holding. Offense, number 72. 10-yard penalty. 2nd down.
Came in as the 2nd least penalized team in pro football. There's one right there, and that's on the starting right tackle, Braden Smith.
Boy, between the penalties and the drops, it's got to be frustrating for the play caller. Keep looking down at your call sheet. You don't have a lot of plays on there, Kevin, for 2nd and 20.
They've had 3 penalties today. They had 15 in the first 3 weeks. 3 today, all on the offense. Second down, 18. Hines again back there as the back. Batted down! I think it was Crosby, who's as tall as an NBA forward. He could play for the Pacers or the Warriors, and he gets up there and spikes it away. Incomplete pass.
Yeah, they're bringing some 5- and 6-man pressures. You just look right in the middle of your screen. He's working on the center, Kelly, there, and he's has the wherewithal to jump up. He knows he's not going to get home, but he does the next best thing and by extending that long right arm. I really like him, Kevin. He's got a big-time motor. He plays with a lot of energy, doesn't take plays off. They think he's going to be a good one.
Broke his hand in camp, and it's casted and healing. 3rd and 18. They need the 43 of the Oakland Raiders, and here's a long throw, and it's caught in the middle right there by Pesco. Grabbed by Joyner, got the 46. Picks up 15 on 3rd and 18. It's 4th and 3.
And this is what I love about Frank Reich. He's aggressive, and he's not averse to taking some calculated risk. This could be a situation where they go no snap, no play. I think the Raiders are going to use a timeout.
They are. They've got 1 left. With a look at Gruden, whose offense came out on fire. 2 touchdowns in the first 2 possessions. Then the rookie running back fumbled. Then they got another touchdown pass. So they scored 3 of the first 4 times they had it. On the other side, the Colts, Rich, began with 2 3-and-outs. Then they got a touchdown pass of 5 yards after Jacobs of the Raiders had fumbled. But they were held out on a 1st and goal at the 8 by the defense and had to get a field goal. Raider D has come up pretty big in this one.
Yeah, the Raiders have played well, but the Colts have also shot themselves in the foot with some mistakes. You look at Jacoby Brissett, he's got 8 incompletions. Half of them have been drops. Needs some help.
Again, T.Y. Hilton out today with a quad injury. Perfect has been ejected on the defense of the Raiders. 4th and 3, they need the 43.
Hey, alert! Hey, space 5-9, wham! Wham!
They're not going to snap it.
Nope. They'll punt, or they'll send the punting unit out. With 1:27 to go, and the Raiders have a timeout. They had some drop balls. You talked about shooting themselves in the foot or the hoof.
Yeah, these aren't tough catches. I mean, these are right on the receivers. I mean, you look at them, he's putting them, getting them in the position where they get into the transition of the run. But Ebron's been both Ebron and you look at Rodgers, they're a little quick with their eyes, and you see the frustration from their Pro Bowl tight end.
Well, they've yanked their punting unit off the field. The punting unit has come off, and Brissett is back out there. He's looking at that play sheet on his wrist. That was first developed back in the mid-'60s, and it was made for Tom Matte. When the 2 quarterbacks, including Johnny Unitas, were out, Don Shula came up with that system. Back in 1965, they won the game, and Shula came up with it. 4th and 3. Brissett. Good block by Smith. They got him. It's a first down catch by Pascal. It was right in front of Joyner. They get the first down. It's a gain of 6. And now a flag. Late hit, maybe?
I think they're going to call that on the Raiders. I think Corey Liuget didn't let go of Zach Pascal, and he takes him to the ground.
Well, what if the play was over, delay a game?
But what if Liuget thought he was still alive, though? Maybe he didn't.
5 yards would be added to the end of the play.
You're talking about a veteran
First down.
of 9 years, a Pro Bowl caliber player with the Chargers. You know these guys get up and run. And Gene, what do you think of that in New York as we go to Gene's territory?
I think to me it's pretty obvious that he's down, Kevin, right. and because he is a veteran, I think that might be why he tried to make that move, to be honest with you.
All right, Gene, thanks.
Tried to prevent the officials from being able to get in there and spot the ball quickly.
Yeah.
You know, Liuget's a guy that they really need to perform. He's been hurt. He's been inactive for the first couple games of the season. He's a big, powerful guy. He can play over the nose. He can play the 3 technique.
He was a first-round pick by the Chargers. He's 9 years in the NFL. They need some help up front. Plays today. Hadn't practiced a great deal.
And by getting him inside, it allows them to move the rookie pass rusher, Clelin Ferrell, outside a little bit more in the rush package.
Good point. 6-5 in the secondary. 1st and 5. Dumps it off to Hines. Good tackle open field right there by Nicholas Morrow. Limiting him to a 1-yard gain. Got to the 34. Clock continues to tick. Colts have 2 timeouts. Raiders have 1. 2nd down and 4. We're losing Hilton, who is their top receiver. Certainly puts them at a disadvantage. 2nd down and 4. Slings one, dropped right there. Deion Kane. Incomplete for the 2nd-year Clemson receiver.
We're not talking about just any receiver, Kevin.
Yeah, it's a 4-time Pro Bowl,
right?
right?
And
Yeah.
I mean, I just know as a quarterback what that's like. I mean, you have the comfort, the familiarity. You understand his body language. He's been so productive. It's kind of your go-to guy on 3rd down in the red zone, in a critical situation. I mean, that's what you lose when you don't have him in the lineup. And now it allows the Raiders to play a little bit more man-to-man coverage and not help with T.Y. Hilton.
It's 3rd and 4. Fake to Hines, off to Hines, on the move, flag is thrown, Joseph is on him. At the 27.
They're going to get linemen downfield on this one. It took a while to develop an offensive lineman.
Ineligible player illegally downfield on the offense, number 64. 5-yard penalty.
Lewinsky.
3rd down.
What was Frank Reich talking about to us on Friday about how they have a meeting specifically on penalties on the Saturday night before Sunday games?
Yeah, they spent a lot of time with, the team trying to educate them on, what's happening around the league and, why penalties are an issue. And I think this is a team that's been very disciplined. They have very few penalties.
Now they go to 6 in the secondary. Rookie Trayvon Mullen out of Clemson in for the Raiders. 3rd and 9. Naheem Hines remains in the backfield for Brissett. Moves up, hit as he throws, and incomplete. Oh, he got drilled in there by Jonathan Hankins. Came in and drilled him. Incomplete pass downfield. They're looking for Rodgers.
Yeah, Hankins is going to beat the right guard, Lewinsky, and he's able to get there. And Jacoby's not able to hold it. He needs an extra split second to be able to find Rodgers to the corner.
This is going to be a 57-yard field goal try for 46-year-old Adam Vinatieri. This would equal his career long 57 yards in a very up and down season. And it is no good. He thought he had it too.
Had enough leg. He just
looked like it.
Just tugged it a little bit left. It was close. The interesting thing about Adam Vinatieri, he played in his first NFL game September 1st, 1996, Kevin. 3 of his teammates weren't even born yet.
Yeah.
Guy's 46 years old. You watch him out of practice on Friday, still kicking away, still loves the competition. And he had his struggles the first 2 weeks of the season, but he's kind of worked through them. And you got to give a lot of credit to his head coach, Frank Reich. They said they doubled down on him when he struggled the first 2 games.
Raiders in attack mode. They've got a timeout. Richard in the backfield, 1st and 10 for Derek Carr. Carr and deep and into traffic, and it's incomplete. And they're looking for Tyrell Williams, who now plays the position that was designated in the Raider offense for Antonio Brown.
Yeah, he's trying to throw this ball down the middle. This is what I would call late down the middle. It's a very dangerous throw, one that Derek Carr shouldn't have made.
Nice play by Willis.
Yeah, that could have easily been intercepted. That was a force.
Willis is starting from Malik Hooker today. Rookie out of Michigan State. He was a captain. 2nd and 10. Raiders have a timeout. Richard in the backfield. Carr going deep. Oh, he's got Williams. And they're working on Yassine. Nice play. Wow. How about Rock Yassine out of Temple?
Well, Derek Carr throws a really pretty deep ball, but really good coverage here by the rookie.
Oh, he's holding. Look at that.
Well, he's doing his part. Let's put it that way. But yeah, he tugged him a little bit, but he's able to let go and get his hands up. And the one thing he does a nice job of is turning back and finding the football. You see a lot of young cornerbacks that panic when the ball's in the air.
His white glove on that white jersey, maybe that caused some distress. Anyway, 3rd and 10. One timeout. Richard a block, and it's incomplete.
don't know what happened there.
I don't either.
Seemed like there was some confusion on the part of Derek Carr.
Carr seems ticked off. Was it the play came in later? Didn't like the play. Let's see what happens here.
Talking about whether they were going to challenge that or...
Yes, they're agreeing whatever the problem was. They're with wrong personnel maybe out there, Rich, for the play.
It's hard to tell. Clearly, though, Derek Carr wasn't comfortable with the play call. He's over there talking to offensive coordinator Greg Olson.
Here's a punt. A.J. Cole. High, and Chester Rogers is circling under it. Catch at the 12, and we have 10 seconds remaining. You know, the thing I liked about you and Gruden was you got along. It was a comfortable, very easy relationship.
Jeez.
Look at this.
I don't know where you found this.
We're this far away. Oh, come on, Coach.
He was hard. You know, I think about Coach Parcells and how tough he was on Phil Simms, one of our colleagues at CBS, and that's how John Gruden was with me.
Yeah.
You know, there's some tough love. But the one thing about it, though, is that after every game, he was always the first person I sought out in the locker room and first guy I hugged, because I had great respect for the amount of time, effort, and energy he put in to helping to get me and the team ready on Sundays.
Raiders scored 3 of the first 4 times they had the ball. They finished the half with 3 straight punts. Their defense played well. They had their leader, Burfict, ejected. Each team has turned it over. Small touchdown pass to Doyle, a 26-yard field goal. There's where we stand at halftime. It's coming up next after these first half highlights from Verizon and a word from your local station. Welcome back to Indianapolis. You see our halftime score. Let's take a look at the first half highlight presented by DirecTV. Carr to his rookie tight end Moreau in the end zone. Great catch, heavy traffic. 2 consecutive scores for the Raiders. They also got a 60-yard end around from the newest Raider from the Green Bay Packers in a trade, Trevor Davis. Kevin Harlan alongside Rich Gannon. What did you think of the first half?
Well, the Raiders got off to a fast start. Carr was hot. Kevin, he completed 11 of his first 13 passes. And I think their defense got off to a good start as well. And I give the Colts some credit. They didn't panic, though. They came back. Jacoby Brissett made a couple good throws. But they've got to be frustrated just in terms of how things have unfolded. They've had a lot of drops. They've had some penalties. And they've got to be able to kind of recalibrate and kind of find their rhythm here in the second half. They're only down by 2 scores, but again, a frustrating first half of football for the Colts. When you look at the numbers, and again, big struggle early on was time of possession. Colts didn't have a lot of opportunities there in the first quarter.
Pascal is deep back to retrieve this opening kickoff of the second half by the Raiders, and here we go. Returnable from the 6. Zach Pascal trips up and dives his way to the 24. 18-yard return. John Schriffen is on our sideline.
Had a chance to catch up with both head coaches at the half. Let's first start with the Colts head coach, Frank Reich. He told me we got up to a really slow start, some uncharacteristic penalties, but he felt like they were getting into a rhythm towards the end of that first half. He said, we're getting the plays we want, but now we just have to make those plays. One injury update, wide receiver Paris Campbell for the Colts left early with an abdominal injury. He is questionable to return. Now, as for the Raiders, John Gruden told me, we missed a lot of big plays. We have to be able to pick up the blitz better to protect Derek Carr.
And John, that's why Pascal is back there with the kickoff return. Thank you. Campbell usually is. Brissett first and 10, 23. Chased by Morrow. Throws a pass. Knocked away. Intended for Kane and broken up by Darryl Worley.
A great coverage there by Worley. He was in the back pocket of Kane the entire way and just was waiting for the throw. You just watch Kane on the crosser, and you're going to watch Worley come in here from the far side, and he's there. He's got good vision on the quarterback, and he's able to get that right hand in there and knock it away. Corners have played well in this one.
Defense of the Raiders held him to a first and goal field goal try. Perfect ejected on that drive. Second down and 10. Hand to the side. Nice looking catch made. Rodgers with Joyner right there and Joseph right there. Chester Rogers comes up with a 17-yard grab to the 40.
Terrific adjustment by Chester Rogers. He's working on the veteran Lamarcus Joyner. Just watched. He creates a little bit of separation there with a slight push off, but really nice adjustment going back for the football. You see that right arm there really wouldn't have made a difference as Joyner was never able to get his head around and find the football.
Good tackle coming through is Morrow. The linebacker. He nails Mack and throws him for a 1-yard loss back to the Colt 39.
Where some of the negative runs and the penalties in the first half were a problem for the Colts. They really got them behind and down in distance. They had way too many 3rd and 8+ situations against the Raiders in that first half.
With a 2nd down, 11. Blocking is there from Glowinski. Run by Brissett. Tagged right there by Tahir Whitehead with a gain of 2 to the 41.
A couple pump fakes there by Jacoby Brissett really frees the rush of the Raiders. He bought himself some extra time.
Everything about Reich as a play caller, much like Gruden, who was a college quarterback at Dayton, is they know the ebb and flow of a game, and right, Rich, how to get the quarterback into rhythm with their calls.
Yeah, I think they both see the game through the eyes of the quarterback. John played quarterback at Dayton, as you mentioned, Kevin.
Right 19.
They know how to settle a quarterback down.
They're down 9. Crossing pattern right there. Boy, what a hit on a 3-yard reception. It was made by Campbell, and he gets out to the 44, and they got a punt.
That is a perfect form tackle there by the veteran safety, Carl Joseph.
So Campbell is banged up. Joseph with the big hit, big defensive play. We know that T.Y. Hilton has been out all game with a quad. Didn't suit up inactive today. So depth at receiver, a bit of an issue now for the Colts offense. Here is the punt by Rigoberto Sanchez. They're caught 10-yard line, Trevor Davis. Just under 5 seconds on the hang. 46-yard punt. Here comes Derek Carr in the Raider offense. Maybe another course at sign-making school, holding it the right way. And
problem is, you got that mask on. It's hard to see.
Well, Rich, the Raiders had some trouble scoring early in the season. They came out and scored 3 of the first 4 times here this afternoon.
180.
They just got the punt, 1st and 10. Derek Carr. That's Jacobs, the rookie receiver. That's a 2nd reception of the season. Out to the 18, hit by a couple on the play, including Kenny Moore, and picks up 8 on 1st down to the 18.
Well, the Raiders struggled offensively before the half. They had 3 straight 3-and-outs, and they've had some problems coming out of the half. Oakland hasn't scored a single 3rd quarter point this season. Talk about the importance of halftime adjustments. You just can't have those kind of lulls. You got to be consistent. You got to be able to play 4 quarters of football, especially on the road.
180.
Down long 1. Jacobs in goal, the block, and that's a 1st down run. As he gets in the secondary, hit by E.J. Speed, picks up 10 on the play. And that's amazing, isn't it? The Raiders have not scored in the 3rd quarter yet this season.
I want you to watch the left guard and the fullback make big blocks here. Richie Incognito, he's going to get a block up inside. You get the fullback, and you turn the running back Josh Jacobs loose up on the 2nd level.
Jacobs now 4 yards away from being #1 in franchise history for rookie rushing through 4 games. Are looking for someone as Jacobs. That's going to be a 1st down. They make a miss there with the missed tackle by Muhammad and out of bounds, followed by Anthony Walker. It's a catch and run of 20 yards. 3rd reception of his career and a 1st down for Oakland.
And they're trying to get the rookie running back more involved in the passing game. He's certainly capable. This is a good job by Carr. He's going to go all through his progressions. You look at where Josh Jacobs is in the lineup. He's the number 4 in the progression, and Carr is able to work all the way back inside and find the running back.
He was chosen number 24. We said earlier, the only running back chosen in the 1st round of the draft. Didn't even start at Alabama. 1st and 10. Here he goes, looking for a block and shooting through Justin Houston. No gain on the play. They stay at the 49. Among rookie running backs, so far, he is #1 in the NFL.
He's going to be a special player. I like Singletary as well, Kevin. We saw him week 1 against the Jets. But, you know, Josh Jacobs played as a true freshman at Alabama. He wasn't an every down back. I mean, they had so many talented runners, and so they want him to be the featured back. And I think that next step in the process for him is to continue to evolve in the passing game.
to the backfield. Washington on the move. Second down 10. Out to Washington. Beat out there. Good play by Kenny Moore. And he's out to midfield and picking up a yard. John, what do you have?
At the half, John Gruden told me that he wanted to protect his quarterback, Derek Carr, better. But the problem is right now, his right tackle, Trent Brown, is out of the game. They are looking at his right hand. They are trying to figure out what is wrong with it. But as the medical staff has been feeling around, he is wincing in pain. I will give you an update on if he will be able to come back into this game. Guys.
David Sharp taking his place. Brandon Parker, who can play some right tackle and active today. Third down 9. Richard in the backfield. Richard with the block, they dump it out. It's caught by Renfro, and he's just shy of the first down because Clayton Gathers had a big-time hit. They pick up 8. They're a yard shy, 4th and 1. It looks like they're going to lead the Raider offense out there.
Really good stop by Gathers and Brock Yasteen. They did a terrific job.
Brown's going to go to the locker room. And he was, of course, a starting right tackle for the Super Bowl champion Patriots a year ago. New England moved him to that right tackle. Originally a San Francisco 7th-round pick. So now Sharp is there. Sharp is 3 years in the NFL. He was waived by Houston a couple years ago. 4th and 1. Jacobs and Ingold, the rookie tandem.
No snap, no play.
Timeout.
Never quite as effective after you have a stoppage of play. Yeah. It's better in the normal flow of things. It's always worth a shot. And it's always more difficult on the road with the crowd noise.
And of course, as a quarterback, and you were in this position with Gruden, you're going over there and you're lobbying, aren't you? Saying, hey, let's keep him on the field. Let's go for it here on 4th and short.
Well, sometimes you line up in a formation by design. The coach will say no snap, no play, because we want to see how the defense comes out and what the personnel is on defense and how they match up. Are they playing man? Are they playing zone? And that doesn't mean you're going to get the same coverage the next time, but at least allows you to preview what you're seeing from the defense.
What would you say in the huddle to the team if it was no play, no snap?
I'd say, guys, sit in, no snap, no play. You make sure that everyone hears that loud and clear.
4th and 1 with Jacobs and 2 tight ends. Caught. Ingold takes it, digging, turning, grinding. Looks like he's got the first down with his first NFL carry. Let's see the spot. They give him the first down. Ingold, undrafted out of Wisconsin, former high school player of the year in the state, carves his way for a Raider first down.
I think he gets this with second effort. I think he's able to twist and spin, and it's going to be close, but the official up the top, the line judge, looks like he gives him the spot.
He's from the Green Bay area, played at Wisconsin where he was a starter. Pistol for the first time now with Washington back there, 8th play of the drive. 4 defensive backs. Washington wrapped up well. Nice tackle made right there. E.J. Speed saw his first action last week. He's out of Tarleton State. Rookie, gain of 1.
Just watch Speed. He's going to come all the way from the backside and get his eyes in the backfield. He just chases this thing down. Great effort play by the linebacker.
And a good last name, too.
We were kidding about that the other day. With a name like Speed, your dad has to say, hey son, you're going to have to run some extra sprints when you're a young kid. You can't be the slowest kid in the class.
Second down. Richard back there and out of the backfield. He gets the ball. And there's Gathers again. Nice tackle right there. Malik Hooker out with the knee. Torn meniscus. Gone for a while. The cornerback and the safety combining, and the strong safety there is Gathers. He was out of UCF. He had a pickoff against Atlanta and Matt Ryan last week. First career interception for Gathers. 3rd and 8. Gathers one of now 6 defensive backs. Here they come at Carr. And they throw, and they've got the completion of Tyrell Williams. Bang from behind by Sheard, has the first down to the 21 and picks up 18. Flag thrown on the play.
This is a really nice job on protection from the Raiders. This may go against the Colts, but a really nice job communicating
There is
and executing.
no foul for offensive holding on the play. Please reset the play clock to 40 seconds.
They're going to turn the whole line to the left. They're going to slide the line all the way to the left. The back's going to come all the way across and make this block. So the left tackle is actually blocking the corner off the edge. And that allows Carr just enough time to step up in the pocket and find Tyrell Williams.
And he's playing the Z receiver, which was Brown's position.
Really nice job by Carr, trusting the protection. It's about communication and execution.
Tyrell Williams, another terrific third down conversion. He's got 8. All converting. Handoff on 1st and 1 here. Here's DeAndre Washington. And he squirms his way to the 13, and he picks up 8 on 1st down for the Raiders.
Well, ball distribution is important. You look at Derek Carr. He's had completions to 7 different receivers. 5 receivers getting involved. They love the tight ends. They've got 3 of them. They're all up. And the running backs, something we haven't seen the first 3 weeks in the Raiders. The running backs getting more involved in the passing game.
Washington is in. 2 tight ends. 4 in the secondary. 2nd and 3. Ingo to block. Washington the run. And from behind, the tackle is made by Vanagu. It's a gain of 6. He's down to the 8.
I really like this young fullback that the Raiders have, Alec Ingold. He's in there for a reason, and he's very downhill. Let's just put it that way. There's not a lot of indecision. He's in there to block the linebackers. He's done a really terrific job as a lead blocker for the other rookie, Josh Jacobs. Gruden's not afraid to play with young players. This is a young team on offense. They have 8 new starters on offense.
1st and goal at the 8. Washington bouncing, and a good tackle made right there by Okereke, who's the rookie out of Stanford, Bobby Okereke. No gain in the play. Of course, he moves to the middle linebacker with Leonard out. Walker was playing outside. So some shifting in the linebacking core with the terrific Darius Leonard out. Concussed in protocol, last year's NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. 14th play of the drive. 2nd down and goal. Fake to Washington. Here comes Carr, chased by Shield, and finds refuge on the sideline at about the 8 with no gain on the play. It's 3rd and goal for the Raiders.
Well, the Colts weren't fooled. They had that covered up. Derek Carr had nowhere to go with the football. You think about the scheme of the Colts. Matt Eberflus does a terrific job. Their defensive coordinator, not overly complicated. They play a handful of fronts and coverages, and they mix in some pressure looks. But they want to be able to play fast. They want to be able to attack, play with their ears back, and get upfield.
Richard the back, 1 tight end into the nickel, 3rd and goal at the 8. Derek Carr. Dropped inside by Williams. On a pass thrown low and maybe a little bit behind, and they send the field goal unit out there, and Gruden cannot get it in. They'll try for 3.
Well, better throw probably gets this done, but still you've got to be able to make this catch if you're Tyrell Williams. I mean, it was on the back shoulder. He had to slow down the hole for it, but you've still got to make that catch. Again, it goes right through his hands.
So here's Daniel Carlson, who was drafted last year by Minnesota, struggled. They cut him. Raiders signed him. He then went 16 of 17. 26-yard field goal right down the middle. And he extends the Oakland lead on the road. 24-10 over the Colts. Late 3rd on CBS. A look now at the game snapshot presented by Progressive Insurance. It began with the rookie tight end hauling one in. Moreau. That was the first possession by the Raiders. 2nd possession, they got a 60-yard end around on the first play of their 2nd possession from Trevor Davis. Then Doyle caught a 5-yard touchdown pass. Then a 19-yard pass, Carr to Tyrell Williams. And then the defense of the Raiders has been terrific. They've only allowed 59 rushing yards by the Colts, who come in number 6 in rushing. who had 211 yards run against them last week against the Vikings. But today the Raiders have played defense, including a goal line stand earlier on.
Yeah, they've gotten that cleaned up. They've held the Colts to just 59 yards rushing so far, and I think they've kept the lid on the explosive runs, and that's really what got them last week against the Vikings.
Colts just had to weather a 9-minute Oakland drive, and a drop in the end zone, and what looked to be a catchable ball by Tyrell Williams cost him 4 points to get the 26-yard field goal. Jack Pascal is back there. They're not letting Campbell return kicks. He's a little bit nicked up. And this run will go out of the end zone, touchback to the 25. So let's take you to New York, an update with JB and Nate at our CBS studios.
As a player, you play until when, Nate?
Play through the whistle. That's right. Kerryon Johnson, just like a pack flight, Kerryon doesn't fit. And he fumbles the ball. Rashad Veerland, he picks it up. And this is a 99-yard return. They would count this. The Chiefs, they are up right now 20-13.
Kevin, Rich, and John.
The former Washington Redskin, Breland, who joined the Chiefs a year ago, comes up with a big play. Boy, he looked like the running back was down, Kerryon Johnson. Here we just had the kickoff, the 26-yard field goal by the Raiders. Give them a 14-point lead, 1st and 10. Mack dancing a bit. Harris and Joseph in the secondary. Drill him right there to the 28 with a gain of about 3.
Boy, you look at that fumble down there on the goal line. An old offensive line coach said to me one time, Ken, it's better to die a baby than to fumble on the goal line.
Wow.
You don't want to put the ball on the ground down there. That's the quickest way to the bench.
2nd down and 6. 2 tight ends. Doyle on the move. Running back is Wilkins. Pickens poke his way inside. But not a lot. Hit by Nicholas Morrow, playing with a bad ankle today, and a gain of 1.
Well, there's not a lot of experience or production at the wide receiver position behind T.Y. Hilton. He's out of the lineup. We saw Paris Campbell go out, and you just look at those numbers, and that's got to be a concern for Frank Reich as you're trying to dial up plays for your quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. One of these young players is going to need to step up.
3 significant players out today for the Colts. 3rd and 5. Jacoby Brissett out of North Carolina State. Good crossing pattern caught by the hampered Campbell. Brought down by Worley. He bounces back up. He picks up 7 on the shallow cross on 3rd and 5. Put him at the Colts 37.
Well, he's got a lot of refinement to do as a pass catcher and a route runner, but what he does have is speed and athleticism. He's one of those players who's simply playing at a different speed than his opponents.
Campbell, first team All Big Ten, over 1,000 yards receiving a year ago for the Buckeyes. Hurt in preseason. Big catch, 1st and 10. Going deep, Brissett. Looking for Campbell. Nobody running. 4 people around the rookie Paris Campbell.
Nobody stopped running. He had a difficult time finding the football. Didn't think he was going to get it. He just needs to play. You mentioned, Kevin, he missed a lot of time in the preseason. Look at his eyes. He's looking back. He's not even anticipating the throw from Jacoby Brissett.
John Schriffen was telling us he had an abdominal injury that was going to probably take him out of returning kicks, but he's been in now with a couple passes thrown his way to begin the 2nd half. Now we're deep in it with 1:16 and a 2nd and 10. Hopkins trying to squirm away, and there's Corey Legion. Makes the stop. First game active for the Raiders, gain of 3, and he crawls out to just beyond the 40.
Talked all week about shutting down the run. Colts are currently number 6 in rushing, averaging over 150 yards a game on the ground. This is a very good offensive line that these Colt running backs run behind, and that's what Paul Gunther stressed all week. We've got to get off blocks, and we've got to stop the run and make Jacoby Brissett throw the ball a bunch.
Number 4, 3rd down offense in the NFL. 3rd and 7. Out of the reach, incomplete of Ebron. Coverage by the veteran Worley.
Well, Ebron's been quiet. He had a couple drops. He's had a difficult time finding his rhythm, and that really hurts because he can really be a difference maker. He's got some separation there, but that's You know what happens there? You get a negative. He gets a negative for missing the catch, and the quarterback gets a negative grade for the throw.
Brissett, 13 of 27, 113, short touchdown pass. And here is the punt by Roberto Sanchez.
Great hand time.
It is a little over 5 at the 12, 47-yarder. John Gruden in his second year, trying to work his way to 500 on the road in tough Indianapolis today.
Illegal block in the back. Receiving team number 12. Half the distance to the goal. First down. Timeout.
You heard it. Illegal block in the back. We step aside on CBS. You take a look at the starting right tackle, 6'8", 380-pound Trent Brown back in. He came in, Rich, with an ankle injury and a knee that was not right. His hand was beat up moments ago. They've retaped it. He's back in there.
It was one of the big signings in the offseason to help Derek Carr. He's a hard guy to run around, Kevin.
Jacobson in goal to block. The rookie out of Alabama drives a submarine for a couple on that first down and 10 play. Doesn't pick up anything right there, and the terrific Anthony Walker makes the stop for the Indy Colts.
Well, personnel-wise, this is a very different offense from a season ago. I mentioned 7 or 8 new starters and a lot of changes up front.
Colts play well in the fourth quarter. That's been their MO this season, but they're down by 2 touchdowns. Rich had talked about the Colts in the fourth quarter. Week 1, they had an 80-yard drive to tie the Chargers. They had the game-winning touchdown in the fourth against Tennessee. And last week, 2 long drives against Atlanta. They're going to need it because they're down by 2 touchdowns here going to the fourth.
But they're a well-conditioned team, and they're a finishing team. A team that knows how to finish strong late in games.
And for the Raiders, trying to stop a 2-game losing streak, second down 8. Jacobs in goal to block, and a nice tackle from behind. With a gain of 2. Okereke coming in there from San Mateo, California, replacing Darius Leonard today. It's third down and 6. Waller has not made a reception in this second half. He's got 6 of them to lead the Raiders. Third and 6. They need the 16. He's shot into the backfield, and there's the catch, and it's made by Moreau, who's got the first down. He was tackled by Willis. Great catch there, and a big play on 3rd and 6. 8-yard pickup and a Raider first down.
Yeah, nothing fancy, just going to work right over the football. It's the old Hank route. Tight end hook, and see the vacated zone. He gets his depth and makes sure he gets enough for the first down, and pretty easy throw for Derek Carr.
Moreau caught a touchdown pass earlier in the game for 18 yards. It's a reverse. Carr with the block. Trevor Davis looking for somebody. There's a block right there by Hudson. The other way he goes, and forced out of bounds by Kenny Moore. He may have run about 100 yards, and he picked up 14, but it was fun to watch. There he goes to the 32.
There's a lot of work going on here. He's going to start all the way here and work all the way back around. You look at the pursuit, and now all of a sudden you start getting some blocks on the opposite side. The guy that really prevented it from happening was Anthony Walker. He recognized it from the earlier play we saw where Trevor Davis went 60 yards for a touchdown.
How about that? A 60-yard end around for the Raiders early on, and that time he picks up 14 on the reverse. First and 10. Jacobs. Nice tackle from behind once again. Boy, that kid looks good. Okereke, who is out of Stanford. He was a 3rd-round pick, and he throws him for a 3-yard loss, and it's back to the Raider 27.
Good recognition by Okereke. He just runs right through it.
I just mentioned Leonard, who was out, concussion protocol, inactive last week. He led the NFL in tackles a season ago, 2nd and 14. And Jacobs is in. And the 3rd-string tight end is in Carrier. 5 in the secondary. He got by Shear. He throws on the run. And it's caught right there with a nice grab on the move. First NFL reception. Keelan Doss waived in August. Went to Jacksonville's practice squad. AB left. They re-signed him on September 9th. A 14-yard pickup and a first down.
This is exactly what John Gruden was talking to us about last night. We need some unscripted offense from Derek Carr. The ability to make somebody miss, extend the play, make a good throw on the move. This is what's been missing some from the Raiders offense over the last couple weeks.
Carr with the first and 10. He's 20 of 29, 186 through the air and 2 touchdowns. Washington with the call. And a block inside by Good. Denzel Good. Former Colt. 1-yard gain to the 43. Hunt and others in there with a hand on it. Grover, Stewart, Sheard playing today. It's good to have him back, Rich. He was a high pick by Cleveland, went to New England, here now in Indy, and missed all camp.
Playing a lot of snaps for a guy who didn't play the first 3 weeks.
Oh, right, second and 9. And looking for Waller, throwing in back of him. On the move, Carr, incomplete.
It's important to know where you're at on the field, and that's exactly what Derek Carr is telling the young tight end Darren Waller. As you're running to the sidelines, you got to slow down a little bit so you don't run out of real estate.
The right guard is out, Gabe Jackson. Taking his place today was Jordan Devey. But now Devey is out. Devey had a groin injury that was significant, but he started and played a lot. Now Good is in. 3rd and 9. Good pulls. Handoff is there. Not a whole lot for the running back Jalen Richard, and a gain of 1. Here comes the Raider punting unit to James Brown in New York.
And Kevin, here comes Baltimore.
That's right. Lamar Jackson drops back, and look at the flick of the wrist. Mark Andrews right there with the 8-yard TD. They would go for the 2-point conversion, get it with Mark Ingram. The score now 24-18.
9:51 left in regulation. Back to Kevin Harlan.
Nate, James, thank you. One of the reasons why Waller, who was on that Baltimore practice squad, was available is because of a guy like Andrews for the Ravens. You saw how good he is. Here's a punt by A.J. Cole. Chester Rogers back. Lost the ball at the 5. Dives on it at the 8. 50-yard punt. Muffed. Recovered. Colts will have it. 10-21 in the 4th.
And back here in Indianapolis, and as we look at both head coaches, both call the plays on offense. And if you're Frank Reich, you've got to be thinking with a little over 10 minutes to go in the game, down by a couple touchdowns, you've got to be aggressive. Be able to push the ball down the field a little bit, as the Colts have had their challenges against this Oakland defense.
As we mentioned before, 4th quarter has been a time where they have moved the ball this season. They need it right now. Raiders just took 5 minutes off the clock. They punted. On the 10, 1st and 10, the fake pitch and the throw outside. Campbell. No place to go there. Joyner again. Boy, has he played a good game. Worley was defending. Loss of 2 on the play. Back to the cold 8-yard line.
He really has had a good game, Kevin. You know, going back into the first 3rd down of the game, where he almost intercepted the Jacoby Brissett pass. He's been all over the field. Good alert play. He sees the block. He knows that quick screen's coming.
2nd down, 12 on a quick slant. They go to Hines, hit by Whitehead. Flag on the play. Gain of 10 as it stands. Ball was out to about the 17.
"12 men on defense on the snap. Number 90, penalty is declined. 3rd down."
You know, they brought Arden Key off the field, and they took him in place of Hankins, and he did not get off. That's a big body to get off the field.
He's trying, though, Kevin.
I know.
He got close.
I know. Well, see, they knew it, and Brissett
snapped the ball quickly.
Snapped it very quickly. Yep. Takes a lot to move a body like that. 3rd and 2. Brissett wrapped up on that line. Max Crosby. Nice hit. They get Nyheim Hines. No gain on the play. They stay at the 18.
Really shocking. You know, the Colts have been excellent in 3rd and short situations this season. 3rd and 1 to 3. They had converted 11 of 12 coming into today's game. 92%, second best in the NFL. And Now they're going to go for it on 4th down.
From their 18. This is an, what do you think of this call?
Well, we talked about his aggressiveness, and he's not afraid to take calculated risk. You don't convert here, you pretty much lose the game.
Hand off to Hines, and Whitehead looks like he got the first down. Taking his way, picking up 4. Nyheim Hines. Great move and a first down run when they needed it most, bulldozing to the 22.
Watch the second effort. He's going to get hit in the hole, and he spins out from Whitehead and is able to fall forward to make the first down. Well, there was that could have been the game right there if the Raiders were able to get off the field and get it stopped.
First down and 10. Time for Brissett. Dumps it off to Hines. Here comes Whitehead. And a foot race to the 37. That's a gain of 14 by Hines, who has a first down.
And here's the challenge for the Raiders the rest of the way. Essentially, it's 4-down football the rest of the way. They just went for it on 4th down inside their own red zone, and you know that that's going to be the mindset for Frank Reich the rest of the way. It's 4-down football. That's certainly an advantage for the Colts.
Into the nickel, first down and 10. Costanza, the nice block at the left tackle on the crossing. Kevin Hines, and a big-time hit. Leveled by Eric Harris, the safety. A gain of a yard near the 38.
You're going to see the safety. He's just waiting on this. I mean, this is an easy one for him. And if you're a back, you got to see out in front of throws and know that that's a zone coverage and not man-to-man. You got to find a soft spot and throttle it down in there and protect yourself.
Up to this point, the defensive coordinator, Paul Gunther's called a good game. Second down, 9. Wilkins in the backfield. That's batted down again. Crosby. He is playing handball. His second rejection inside.
Kevin, you mentioned he could play basketball. He's 6'5", 255 pounds, and there he is again, right in the middle of the screen. He knows he can't get there, and so he times it up perfectly.
He's a rookie that Mike Mayock drafted out of Eastern Michigan. A look at Gunther. Crosby was a 4th-round pick. Virtually every drafted player made this team and has a contributing role, a significant role. 3rd and 9. Wilkins in the backfield. 6 in the secondary. Brissett. Crumbling pocket in the what a catch made! Pascal makes a terrific grab. Snares it out at the 39 of Oakland. 23-yard catch. What a grab by Pascal.
It's a great catch, but it's a terrific throw as well, Kevin. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, he threads this needle between the linebacker and the safety. A great throw by the quarterback.
1st and 10. Brissett with time underneath. Caught by Wilkins. Corkscrews his way inside the 30. Hit by Whitehead and grabbed by Morrow and picks up 11. Another first down. Hines has caught a couple for 14 and 11 as Carr and Gruden are planning their next possession. And the defense of the Raiders, which has been very solid today, is now facing their 10th play on this 1st and 10 drive from the 28. Good time. Oh, they get away from Whitehead. Here goes Brissett. Chased by Key. On the move. And shy of the first down. Forced out of bounds by the safety, Harris. And he runs for 8 on that play and stops the clock.
Well, they're going to blitz. I mean, this should get home. For some reason, they pick it up, and Jacoby Brissett's able to step up, avoid the free rusher, and then escape and avoid a negative play.
Timeout Raiders. Their first, second. They've got one left. 6:03 to go. Gruden and the Raiders by 14. Rich, you were talking during the break. You think that timeout was taken because the defense of the Raiders is gassed.
Yeah, it's right in the midst of a 10-play, 70-yard drive. They were tired, I think. John Gruden burnt that second timeout to give those guys a chance to regroup and catch their breath.
Brissett has dropped back 34 times to throw. He has not been sacked. 2nd and 2. Hines back there. The fake to him, and here comes Brissett. Out of bounds he goes. He's chased by Morrow, but not before he has a first down, and a flag is thrown on the sideline.
It's a face mask on the linebacker, Morrow. Just watch him here. That right hand, he gets the face mask of Well, actually, they both have each other's face masks.
Personal foul, face mask, defense number 50. Half the distance of the goal.
You're right.
Automatic. First down.
Well, Jacoby Brissett had his right wrist and thumb up in the face mask of
that's
Moore. What do you expect Moore to do? He can't see. He's got his head up in the air. He's just trying to grab a hold of something.
I know it. Hines the back. Raiders are in the nickel. First and goal. Brissett. Fumbling pocket. Flag thrown. Broken up on the play. Beautifully for Conley with the play. Pass for Kane.
I think you're going to get a hold away from the play.
Prior to the pass, holding defense number 29.
Yep.
Half the distance of the goal. Automatic. First down.
It's right here. And you watch as Passel goes to the corner, and he's doing everything he can. Marcus Joyner to make sure he doesn't get that free release to the corner.
5.5 to go. Colts 3 timeouts. Down by 2 touchdowns. First and goal inside the 5 of the 4.
Good red zone teams have the ability to run the football in this part of the field.
Hines in the backfield. Brissett to the end zone. Broken up by Worley on a pass intended for Jack Doyle. It's second and goal.
And I watched the Browns, Kevin, a couple of weeks ago in a critical situation into the game, right down in this part of the field, throw the ball 4 times. I think I saw the Packers do that the other night as well. I mean,
at Lambeau.
Yeah, you got to be able to run the football in this part of the field. I think it's important. You got a lot of big bodies up front, a lot of first-round picks, left tackle, left guard, center, all first-rounders.
With a second down and goal at the 4. Brissett to the end zone for Kane. Incomplete. No yellow on the field, and the coverage on the play by LaMarcus Joyner. Third and goal for Indy. With a look at T.Y. Hilton out today, who was the guy in the crosshairs of Brissett in the red zone.
Dealing with a quad injury. We saw him out at practice on Friday, not practicing but supporting his teammates, and this is the part of the field where he usually comes to life.
Third and goal at the 4. Here goes Brissett. Hines is back there with him. There's a line drive pass, and it's caught by Chester Rogers. Working on Joyner, got the touchdown pass, a 4-yarder, and the Colts are back in business.
Well, this is a play that we're all familiar with. Sprint right option. The quarterback's going to get outside the pocket. He's got the slot receiver working to the flat, and that's Chester Rogers, who creates immediate separation from LaMarcus Joyner. Well executed, well done.
Rogers' first touchdown pass reception of the season. The second short touchdown pass today by Brissett, who has thrown at least 2 touchdowns in every game this season. With the extra point here by Adam Vinatieri. Bad snap, but the kick is good. Long snap by Rhodes was off. Now just 7 points between them as number 7, Brissett, finds his veteran Rogers for 6 for Indianapolis.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Burger King. Try the all-new Impossible Whopper, made from plants. T-Mobile, now connecting 99% of Americans. T-Mobile, America's network. And by Pepsi. Always be celebrating.
You look at the importance of being a good road team, Kevin. The Raiders have really struggled. Just 1-7 on the road a season ago. Really just 3-14 since 2017. Good teams on the road. They relish these opportunities to finish late.
Sanchez with a little chipper here that Davis will let bounce at the goal line and kick into the end zone, and the Raiders had everybody up thinking maybe they would see an onside kick. Coming up next to Chicago, it'll be the Vikings and the Bears. Some of you will see Jacksonville at Denver. That's next on this doubleheader Sunday on CBS.
If you want to be a road warrior, you've got to seize this opportunity. You relish these opportunities to finish on offense. The last thing you want to do if you're Derek Carr is put your defense back on the field and have to rely on them to get a stop to win the game. And you're going to get a false start.
It's not a way to begin a drive.
False start. Offense. And a 7-7. 5-yard penalty.
If you look at the right tackle, Trent Brown, he gets a little antsy. He just moves a little bit. It's getting loud down this part of the field.
John, what do you have?
Well, we saw the left guard, Jordan Debbie, leave the start of the fourth quarter. He is out of the game with a left pec injury. He is done for the game.
Yep, the right guard, Debbie, is out. Good take in his place. 1st and 15. Jacobs, Hudson a block. Good, a block. Oh, and he bursts through! And he's got a 16-yard gain. Tackled on the play by rookie Khari Willis. A first down run to the 36.
Well, just keep an eye on the right guard. Good in the center, Rodney Hudson. They get out in front of it. Look how athletic the center is. Look at this pull and this movement. There's one kick. There's 2 kickouts. And the back makes a miss up on the second level. Really good-looking run by the rookie, Josh Jacobs.
Injured player, Grover Stewart. We step aside, 5:13 to go. Raiders have been around since 1960, and they've never had a rookie running back rush for this many yards through the first 4 games of a season in his career. But Jacobs has done that, a huge 16-yard run moments ago. Colts 3 timeouts, down by 7. Raiders 1st and 10 and 5 to play. Jacobs remains, couple tight ends, nickel secondary for Indy. Doss.
Another false start by the left tackle, Colton Miller.
False start. Offense. Number 74. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Well, they're not making things easy on themselves now, are they?
10 penalties, a season high for the Raiders. And no, they're not. 2 tackles have been whistled on this drive. First and 15, Carr to Jacobs, blocked by Good. Broken tackles, galloping into the grasp of Willis. And he takes it out to the 39 with a big, hard-earned gain of 8.
Well, the defensive tackle, Hunt, he's in the position 92 to make this play. Just the running back runs right through the arm tackle. And Kevin, he's not the biggest back, Josh Jacobs, but I talked about his elite lower body strength. He's not an easy tackle. He runs with some power.
2nd and 7.
180.
Jacobs again, blocked by Good. Nice hit put in there by Okereke. The rookie out of Stanford grabbed him and allows him just a 2-yard gain to the 41. The clock continues to tick. Indy 3 timeouts, Raiders 1. A big 3rd down coming up here.
What a huge 3rd down.
And 5.
Well, they've got man-to-man coverage up top.
Running back Richard. There goes a flag. Hudson pointed the center. And I wonder if that's a false start.
I think they're going to get the right side. Incognito and Miller for moving.
Prior to snap, false start. Offense. Number 64. 5-yard
You're
penalty.
right.
Down.
That's the 3rd false start on this Oakland drive.
And all these fans are on their feet now, Kevin. It's gotten a lot louder in here. And a lot more difficult to communicate and hear that snap count.
Best thing that's happened to the starting left tackle Miller is Cognito, isn't it?
Yeah, Richie Incognito missed the first 2 games because of a suspension. Came back last week. He's an excellent communicator. He's been a Pro Bowl guard, and he can really help settle down that young tackle.
3rd and 10. He's got Waller. He's got room. Boy, though, is read well by Sheard. What a play by Autry. Sheard and Autry. It's only a gain of 3. It's 4th and long in the punting unit for the Raiders out there. Jabal Sheard.
Just watch this effort right here. He's going to rush the passer, then he comes off once he recognizes the middle screen. This is a great effort and good alert play by Jabal Sheard. Well done.
He's been inactive all season until today, battling a knee. Hadn't really practiced until this week, injured on the first day of training camp. Now a punt from A.J. Cole, and he needs a beauty. Rodgers back at the 10. From the 14, hang time of just under 5, and he calls the fair catch on a 46-yarder at the 15. And stay tuned for the NFL Today update delivered by Pizza Hut, time permitting. JB and the gang will have scores and news and highlights. This is one of many good games going on right now in the NFL. Let's go to John on the sideline.
Well, a huge injury update. Running back Marlon Mack right now is a questionable return with an ankle injury. He is still on the sideline, but no word yet if they're going to use him on this drive.
John, thanks. We've talked about these big fourth quarters and what they did. Remember week 1 at Los Angeles against the Chargers, an 80-yard drive came back to tie it. They had the game-winning drive against Tennessee week 2. Now a 1st and 10, Brissett. Big time hit. It was on Chester Rogers. It was leveled by Nicholas Morrow. Rogers laid out, incomplete pass.
Boy, he hits him right in the stomach.
Wow.
He's got the ball.
It was clean.
Yep, I don't think that's a catch. I think no sooner did he get a hold of it, and you watch that tackle by Morrow. Well, that's well done.
So now we know Hilton is out. Morrow, with the hit on Rogers, forces maybe another wide receiver for the Colts, and he's going to take the knee. We just got the word from John on Marlon Mack. I mean, all these playmakers are getting nicked up.
Makes it a little more difficult to call plays. Jacoby Brissett's got plenty of time. Kevin, he's got the 2-minute warning. He's got all 3 timeouts. Just needs somebody to hold on to the football. The Colts have had a lot of drops today.
Indy's had 6 drops. We're talking to Brissett about his relationship with Bill Parcells and the commandments for a quarterback that Parcells tries to drill in these quarterbacks.
He's got a very close relationship with the former Hall of Fame coach Bill Parcells. He said to us on Friday, I wouldn't be in this position without him. And as you'd expect with Bill Parcells, he's extremely straightforward and honest when he talks to Jacoby Brissett. He told him, he said, you'll never be someone's first choice. He said, embrace it. And that's just what Jacoby Brissett has done.
6 in the secondary. Hines is in motion. 2nd down and 10. Brissett outside for Hines. Morrow with a beat on him. He looks like he's got the 1st down. Close. He has a 10-yard gain. He's out to the 25, and the clock is stopped at 2:17.
What's the next man up? I really like Nyheim Hines. He's dangerous because of his speed and quickness in the open field. Was an All-American sprinter on the track team at NC State.
Good note. He looks it, doesn't he?
I don't know if you know this or not, Ken. I try and pick up those media guides during the week.
Do you?
I mean, I just try and look at them once in a while. You know, I just try and gather some information. I'm part of the preparation process.
That's good, Rich. 1st and 10.
Oh!
It's picked off! Here goes Harris, and there go the Colts! A pick 6 on the first interception of the season by the Oakland defense. What a play! What a play!
Just keep an eye on Harris. He's right here, okay? What happens is they're going to run the tight end across the field. He starts across the field, and then he fools the quarterback. The quarterback thinks he's got the coverage on Doyle, and he falls off, and Jacoby Brissett never feels Eric Harris fall off. That is a good play by the veteran safety.
3rd career interception. The extra point is through for the Raiders. Carlson. A pick 6, a 30-yard return. Brissett throws only his 2nd interception of the season, and The Raider defense, which has been a story all day long, comes up with their first pick as a D in Game 4. But boy, did it come at a big time.
Well, he just never felt the safety, Kevin. It's easy to get lost. He's got his eyes set on the outside receiver, and Harris does a good job with two false steps to show that he's actually covering Doyle, when in fact he's actually in the zone technique and he's just sitting there in the hole waiting for that pick.
Got to go back to 2016 to see these many points on the road scored by the Raiders. Now, the Colts still have 3 timeouts. We know they've been moving the ball in the fourth quarter. They've already done it today. And that Raider defense, Rich, I tell you what, they have been out there a lot here.
Yeah, they have, but you got to give them credit, Kevin. They had a really tough go of it last week against the Vikings. We talked about their struggle stopping the run. Much better today against the Colts.
This is going to go over Pascal's head in the end zone to the 25. And a 1st and 10. The Raiders have as difficult a schedule as anybody. We told you earlier, they're in the midst of a 49-day stretch away from Oakland. 4 road games, a bye, and a trip to London. And they're going to fly to London tonight out of the Indy airport right after the game. And that's about an 8-hour flight. But it will be a lot happier if they can somehow hold on to this game.
And all against teams with winning records. You look at Chicago, they've got Green Bay, they've got Houston. 5 straight games away from Oakland. That's brutal. What did John Gruden say? All we can do is embrace the challenge and the opportunity. And this was a great start here today against the Colts.
Reset. Screen pass for Hines, blocked by Glowinski. From behind, it's Morrow, and the catch and run to the 37, a pickup of 11 on the play.
The Raiders are going to have to rotate some players through. They've been on the defense, on the field a lot defensively here late in the fourth quarter.
Flag, Rich, late. Brissett moments ago threw his first interception.
Ineligible player illegally downfield on the offense, number 78. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Center Ryan Kelly. Brissett, when he threw that pick 6, his first interception in his last 94 pass attempts.
And that's one thing about Jacoby Brissett that Frank Reich really likes. He understands ball security. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, doesn't throw a lot of picks. Very uncharacteristic for Jacoby Brissett.
3 timeouts for the Colts just before the 2-minute warning, so an actual 4 stoppages of play. A 1st and 15. Brissett. And now that may have been picked off by Worley. Out of bounds on the chalk. But it takes us to the 2-minute warning. 1:53. The Raider defense coming in ranked number 25 has played easily their best game of this young season.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Indeed, the world's #1 job site.
How about that? Our guy getting inducted into his high school Hall of Fame. Great Bob Harlan accepting on your behalf because you were here working. Congratulations. Well done. Hall of Famer, Hall of Fame broadcaster, and so get your start all the way back in high school, back in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We're proud of you, brother.
Thank you. 2nd down, 15. Brissett. He's got him, and it's caught by Pascal, and he goes to midfield, and from behind, Conley holding on. He gets to the 48. It's a 28-yard pickup, but down by 2 touchdowns. It's going to be tough. Bonus coverage coming up moments from now from Buffalo. Patriots and the Bills both unbeaten. 1st and 10, outside they go, and Doyle to the 47, 48-yard line. Conley and Morrow are there. The clock is stopped at 1:29, and a gain of 4 with the Colts and 3 timeouts. And down, as we said, by 2 touchdowns. 2nd down and 6. Mack is injured, so Hines remains. Seconds hit as he goes, incomplete. Finally, they get pressure, and it comes from Max Crosby, along with Maurice Hurst on that defensive line.
A lot of young players. You look at Maurice Hurst, the 2nd-year pro, and Talked about this defensive line, how they've got to get better up front. You've got Arden Key, you've got Hurst, you've got P.J. Hall. All played a lot of snaps a season ago, and it's really where the Raiders have to be better with some of these young defensive linemen inside, and Hurst is one of them.
Hurst, a first-team All-America at Michigan. Led Oakland in sacks a season ago. Got to the quarterback right there. One of the bright young players on this Oakland team. Rich, and Hurst is a second-year player, but there are 13 rookies on the Raiders' 53-man roster. Not many teams, if any, can say they're that young.
It's almost unheard of, and then you look at the second-year players, Kevin. They've got a lot of them as well. So with John Gruden, Mike Mayock, they're committed to playing with a young roster, guys that they can mold.
3rd down and 6. With a line drive throw, and it's incomplete. Oh, there goes the flag, and it's thrown on Conley on a pass intended for Pascal. Oakland, with that injury, by the way, loses their final timeouts inside 2 minutes. Injury timeout takes it away, so they're out, and the Colts still working with 3.
I think he's in good shape until he gets right to the top, and you see him grab with that right hand.
Offense, number 14, pushed off at the top of the route.
Oh, wow.
Penalties decline.
Oh, there it is.
4th down.
They were both going at it, but look at Pascal. He was really pushing off. I didn't see that from the other angle.
So it's at the 48. It's 4th down, 4th and 6.
Well, if you're defensive coordinator Paul Gunther, do you bring pressure here, or do you drop in coverage? My sense is he'll rush 4 and drop 7. You have them all up here, but a couple will drop out. Big pressure.
Here comes Brissett. Got through, needs the 42 downfield. Caught on the play! Even that's a touchdown! Huge play, 48-yard touchdown pass by Brissett to Eric Ebron, who has had a forgettable day until right there. Now it gets interesting.
A little surprised they blitzed in that situation, Kevin. They got him on the 4th down. All they got to do is get off the field. They decide to bring 6. And with a mobile quarterback like Brissett, he's able to step up, elude the rush, and find a tight window between the corner and the safety. Harris tries to go for the ball, and that one is right in the breadbasket of Eric Ebron, who had 13 touchdown receptions a season ago for the Colts.
They've thrown at him 5 times today. He's had 3 drops, but he holds on at the most important time. That's his first catch of the day. 48-yard touchdown. The extra point, Vinatieri, is good. So the Colts have 3 timeouts, a minute 10 to play with. Raiders are out of timeouts, and we have a 7-point ball game for a team who in the 4th quarter under Frank Reich really seems to thrive.
There's Bubba Ventrone right in the middle of your screen there. He's the special teams coordinator. He's talking to Frank Reich about what they're going to do. Obviously, it's an onside kick attempt, and they've got a number of different ones that they utilize, and you see them pulling the troops together.
No successful onside kicks league-wide through the first couple weeks. 0 of 8.
Bubba Ventrone was a great special team player. Played at Villanova, played in the league, coached under Bill Belichick in New England, and it's a terrific job with his guys, and they're going to get an opportunity here. And of course, the Raiders, they've got their special teams coach, Rich Bisaccia. He's got his hands team out there.
Kind of surprised maybe that Vinatieri isn't trying this with all his experience. And Sanchez will kick, and that's why they're going to go. And here is Trevor Davis, the catch at the 10. Out of bounds at the 20. Colts' last successful onside kick was 2016. So 1:06 to go. Raiders out of timeouts. 3 for the Colts and a 7-point game.
Well, I'm not so sure I agree with the strategy that they do have 3 timeouts, Kevin, but the problem is you know, the clock. They've only got 1:06 left. Even if the Raiders run the ball a couple times, you burn all 3 timeouts. By the time they punt the football, you're going to be talking about just seconds left on the clock.
Couple tight ends, 1st and 10, Derek Carr. Jacobs busting free. Broke a tackle in there, a Walker. Finally taken down in the secondary. hit by, after the gain of 7, Kenny Moore. And there's a timeout. The ball is out to the 26. Gain of 7 on the play. Jacobs has been terrific again.
And I said at the top of the show, I said he just needs more opportunities. Had 23 carries the first week of the season and just 12 the second week and 10 last week. Today he's got 16 rushes. He's had a couple catches. And he has been very explosive. And a lot of those big runs have come behind the right side of that offensive line.
Clock at 1:01. Colts 2 timeouts. 2nd and 3. With the 2 tight ends again. Jacobs cutting, driving, first down. Willis jumps on his back. Gain of 5. Speed got a hand on him at the 31.
That'll just about do it. And the Colts not even bothering to take a timeout.
With 2 timeouts. The flag has been waved. The pick 6, too great for Indy to overcome. Victory formation. To a knee. That's it. The clock will tick. And the Oakland Raiders have gone on the road and come up with a big win. And the first at Indianapolis since 2001 when Rich Gannon beat Peyton Manning in this city. Big win for John Gruden. They go to 2-2. The Colts go to 2-2. Carr today, 21-31, 2 touchdown passes, but the big play, Eric Harris, pick 6 on the play. Late in the game, 30-yard interception return, which puts it away for the Raiders. That's it from here. Let's take you to James Brown in New York. This update delivered by Pizza Hut.